get started. We're about to open this meeting of the Gilliam County Court. It's Wednesday, December 5th. It's 10:04. I guess really first order of business that we have is the flag salutes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was at a leadership conference on Monday. We had a barbershop quartet that did the national anthem. It was really,
pretty good.
Really good. It was, yeah, pretty impressive. Made your hair stand up all over goosebumps, and yeah, I was extremely impressed. Okay, I do have some changes to the agenda, but I think I'm going to wait until Commissioner Weimer gets here.
Okay.
And then, the first thing that we have is public comment. Any individuals who wish to address the court may do so at this time. Raise your hand, be recognized, give us your name, address. We're going to try and limit the comments to about 3 minutes. And yeah, I probably ought to make sure my phone's on silent too. It is. Here he is. Okay. We just did.
Waiting for me.
Yeah, we did the flag salute and we did the public comment. Right now, it doesn't appear as if anybody wants to provide public comment. So it's Mike sort of gets himself here, seated, prepared.
Turn things up.
Okay, yeah.
You sound kind of
A little horsey still, doesn't he?
a little froggy.
Yeah. Are you working? Okay. I'll speak loudly for a little bit here and making sure that this gets up and going. I do have a couple of changes to the agenda that we're looking at. First of all, our 1045 1.4, Terri Carnine, the Motor Pool and Safety Officer, semi-annual report. Terri has been sick the past couple of days, so she won't be here. We'll end up canceling that and do it at a future time. Also under discussion items, correspondence 3.2.2. We need to have discussions in regards to the concrete batch plant and information that came to me, I guess, late yesterday afternoon and again this morning. So, all right. My understanding is Kimberly Lindsay is going to be just a little bit late. She's having some difficulties traveling due to the weather, and it's slowed her down much more than what she thought. So
That must have been my excuse too.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfectly good excuse at this time of the year, to be honest. You never know what those roads are going to be, and they're different in every mile stretch. So, so I think maybe some of the stuff that we can pick up on some of our action items that we have in here. Specifically, I guess we'll start with the natural hazard mitigation plan. This is really pretty much a summary of what was done. I think the last time that both Commissioner Weimer and I looked at it, this thing was about 500 pages thick, and the one that's been brought to us is fairly similar to that.
Something, I think.
Yeah. So we did get a very good summary of it done by Nicole and Chris some time ago, about a couple months ago. And what it was that they were working on and how they were hoping to be able to get it accomplished. So there really wasn't too awful much in this resolution that, it's basically a process, procedure that needs to be accomplished to get it up and moving. So.
Yeah, it really definitely very important to have our current plan in order to receive funding for things.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
That's the key critical point.
Yeah, one of the things that happened with Wascom County they were in the process of really kind of going through the same thing. We were all doing it really simultaneously, and of course they had all those huge fires over there, and they were able to fall back on the old one, and it so worked out fairly well for them. They received a substantial amount of funds, but we will too. Anyway, anything you guys like to discuss with this? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
I could say it is even larger than the AAA plan.
Yes, yeah.
And I did read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt resolution number 2018/19, adopting updates to the Gilliam County multi-jurisdictional natural hazards mitigation plan. Can I say that fast?
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 2018-19, adopting updates to the Gilliam County multi-jurisdictional natural hazards mitigation plan. Okay, any further discussion with this? I know, yeah, they're being done. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, good. All right, I see that Kimberly has made it. We were able to take care of at least one thing, be able to have you come forward. Good morning.
Great, thank you.
Good to see you.
Sorry I didn't account for weather south of Putner. Or, I guess, west of
Yeah,
Putner.
yeah.
Although when I leave Putner, I feel like I'm going south,
Well,
so
yeah.
I always
Due for a short length.
do it.
Yeah, well, whenever you leave Hefner, yes.
Am I going south for a
You
few
go
minutes?
south for a while. Yep.
I remember the first time I looked at it on a map, I was just so surprised that I was driving east for a long time. Thank you. You're welcome. Do you have one for me? No.
I can give you, yeah, I'll give you one.
Okay, but we can make copies. I'm sorry, I made 6. 'Cause, yeah. So I have a couple, this is just a general update. Good to see you, Judge Schaefer, and
Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
and Merry Christmas. We're
Yeah.
in the season where I
Right.
can say that. It's my favorite month of the year. To get out all my red and wear my bow earrings and my festive holiday jewelry. It's just a general update. I have a couple of things that I'd like to share with you. I could talk for a long time. I think I'd say that there's a lot of things that CCS has going on, but I certainly want to be respectful of your time, so I kind of pick and choose some things that I think would be of interest to you or things that are important, and then save some time for any questions that you might have. I think I'll start with, not with the documents in front of you. We did, Samuel, actually, I'm not going to talk about that. I'll leave the same things back.
Okay.
We are in the process of hiring a new position. Some of you may have heard about it. We created a law enforcement liaison position. I think I might have mentioned that last time I was here. We created that with some additional funding that we had received from mobile crisis dollars. We've been providing mobile crisis for a while, but we were able to be a little bit more creative than some other counties who haven't been providing that, and we created a law enforcement liaison position. Really excited about this position and what they will be doing, and with the creation of that, Chris Humphreys, Sheriff Humphreys, or maybe it's now, is it once a sheriff, always a sheriff, the way it is with the judge? So, but his last day was December 1st. Yeah, November 30th. So we hired Sheriff Humphreys from Wheeler County, and he'll be starting with us January 2nd. And so that is an FYI. He will be working closely with me. He doesn't supplant me. I will still be giving Sheriff Betancourt and other sheriffs just as much of a hard time, if not more, and working closely with them, but he'll be working alongside me. He'll also respond with clinicians after hours to really difficult individuals. He can't, be in all 4 counties at once, and he won't be able to be on call in that way, but on challenging cases, and he will work, he will be our CIT, Crisis Intervention Team Coordinator, and work closely with the state and DPTSD on training for new officers with mental health issues.
So where will Eileen Flory set into this?
So Gobi has a contract with the state to be what they call a center for excellence within Oregon to assist counties, not just community mental health programs, but counties in getting all relevant parties trained in CIT.
Okay.
They come out and they will provide the training, and they did provide that in Gilliam County recently.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
All right. Well, Eileen is a wonderful individual, and I think has done an outstanding job in really relaying the message around here. And of course, she lives right here in Gilliam County, so it's we're wanting to make sure that I'm able to hang on to her and what she does.
Yeah, so that's through Greater Oregon Behavioral Health, and she travels, as you know, and they provide the training.
Okay.
They work closely with your CIT, with the county CIT coordinator, and then the CIT coordinator follows up and makes sure that all individuals maintain their training, serves as a liaison to different entities, and so that's part of what Sheriff Humphreys will be doing.
Okay.
He'll be the CIT coordinator for the county.
Good, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay. So let's look at this document. It just says Community Counseling Solutions at the top. Every quarter for 2 weeks, so 2 weeks every quarter, we have all individuals who are accessing services with us answer a questionnaire at least once. And the questionnaire is fairly short. There are 8 questions. And so if you turn to the second page, those 8 questions were: staff were sensitive to my cultural ethnic background. I feel the treatment fees were fair. When I first came to CCS, I was able to receive treatment in a reasonable amount of time. I would recommend CCS mental health or addictions to others. From a mental health or addictions perspective, I am healthier now than when I first started. I feel my personal information was kept confidential. Overall, the services I received from CCS were helpful. I was treated well. So as you can see in those questions, we're looking at a variety of things: confidentiality, access, cost of services, and then most importantly, well, I think most importantly, did you get better? Did you receive a benefit? There are more questions that we could ask, but again, just not wanting people to get turned off, we kept it simple. And then if you go beyond that, 3 more pages, you're welcome, obviously, to look at the other counties' data, but you have Wheeler and Gilliam County. We combine Wheeler and Gilliam for obvious reasons. There are comments that are shared. We try to reduce the likelihood that they might be able to be identifiable, and then just to get to like enough answers, because sometimes we might only have, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 individuals, depends upon when the random draw is. So for a 2-week period, if and we randomly select a 2-week period, if it, for example, happened to fall between December 20th and January 2nd, you might not have that many people that are being seen. So you can see your data here is all positive. And the worst answers that we have are neutrals, like, it was okay. And then you have agrees and strongly disagrees. And it looks like there were around 25 to 30 people. Actually, it's going to come in slightly over 30. So you have 20, and 6 or 7, and 2 or 3. So 30 to 35 people that took the survey during this 2-week period. For all of CCS, there were no negative comments, so that's great, but I'll say that that's not typical. Well, the comments are usually overwhelmingly positive. We do typically have a few individuals that weren't happy. But this particular quarter, there was no one.
Yeah.
Well, I could share this data all the time. Again, I just don't want to overwhelm you. I think last time I was here, I shared data that was specific to numbers, so numbers of individuals that were enrolled in services, numbers that were receiving assessments. We break that down by adult, child, mental health, and behavioral health. So, is this helpful? Is this kind of data that you'd like to keep seeing periodically, or any? It just kind of goes to my mind, like, what would I like to see if I were you? And don't want to overwhelm you with a bunch of data, so am I giving you what you might be looking for?
Well, I think so. I mean, really in all honesty, we're interested in how the clients are being, the clientele is being treated, and whether they feel that the performance that comes from CCS is worthwhile. And so, yeah, I think this is the kind of data that we want to have.
So I think I'll put on my agenda. Good, thank you. Thanks for the feedback. These are folks that are enrolled in outpatient services. These are not the kids that are receiving services through the school-based counseling program. So next time I come, I will plan to bring you some data on the numbers of kids that we're seeing through that program in Wheeler and Gilliam County.
Right.
Then just let me know if there's any other thing that you would like to know. Since Sandy is back, I'd like to pause from paper for just a second and talk a little bit about the upcoming memorandum of understanding that will be coming out from, likely be coming out from Eastern Oregon Coordinated Care Organization. I'm going to take a step back in time. The governor and the state moved away from mental health organizations, and they went with CCOs to provide the total health benefit, medical, mental health, vision, dental, for the Medicaid population. As a part of that process, which was 5 years ago, they had to obtain a memorandum of understanding with local county governments. And so if they didn't obtain that, theoretically, they wouldn't be able to provide services in that county. I would say that that held true for the most part. There were a couple of counties, Klamath County being one, that didn't sign an MOU. They didn't like any of their options, to keep it simple. But they still have a CCO that's operational. Those contracts are up between the state and the CCOs this next year. I can't remember what month. I'm guessing June. I'm guessing June of 2019 they're up. And the CCOs will be, once again, responding to RFPs to provide services in counties to the state. I expect EOCCO to respond to the same service area that they have. I expect Providence to respond to the same service area that they have. And the reason why I say Providence is that Gilliam County was, I don't know about caught in the crosshairs, but you had some difficult decisions. Providence was an option for you, and Providence provides services in Hood River, Wasco, and
No, not Sherman.
not Sherman.
Right.
Sherman at the 11th hour. That's
Right.
what they did.
Right.
They switched over to EOCCO. Your public health program, that created some challenges for them because they now work with 2 CCOs. With that, they work with EOCCO as well as Providence. But be that as it may, I don't know what, I expect Providence to respond to the RFP for the same service area, but if they may want to lobby Sherman and potentially Gilliam to join with them. Again, as a part of that, an MOU would need to be signed, and I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that, keep that on your radar. It'll be coming up, and it's a good opportunity to exercise your voice, and I'm going to put in a plug for a way that you might do that. Sandy, do you think I missed anything from the conversation. So AOCMHP had a joint meeting at AOC with the county administrators, which was, I think, a productive half hour, 45 minutes, although the room was packed and lots of opinions that were present, some pretty strong with their voice, which was good. But, what am I missing, or what would you add, or what should you take away?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. I think there's, like I said, there's a little bit of discussion about, the process moving forward and how to make sure that everybody does receive the coverage, and just going through the RFPs, that, there were certain groups that were going to try to grab up large areas, and I think we're part of one of those areas.
There were some counties that felt that they were, I don't know, for lack of a better word, held hostage, or their voices weren't heard. And I think for the most part, those were largely Metro County. I'm trying to think of the guy that was just to my left when I was standing, that was also on the CCO board, and he had some very strong feelings about what had happened.
Yes.
Remember what county that was?
I want to say Lynn County.
Lynn County.
And where was this at?
At AOC,
AOC
at the conference, the county administrators had a breakout session, for lack of a better way of saying it, and the CCOs were a huge topic of conversation as we move into CCO 2.0,
Good
which
job,
is a big
Judge
thing.
Schaefer, you got the official
Yeah, there's, you kind of have to, you can't get into the weeds on a lot of things, but you have to stay on top of it, as much as you possibly can. I think one of the big concerns that we had was specifically in our area, being part of the Eastern Oregon CCO and public health, of course, we're split there. We're also split with Norcor and some of the work that Norcor is planning on doing with the mental health end of things. I still think that we're in a really good position as far as the Eastern Oregon CCO, but also this is going to come up. We probably will be, for a lack of lobbied, to look at the Providence end of things and really a tie with Pacific Corps. Is it Pacific Corps? Pacific.
I said Providence, grab that.
Yeah, it's not-
Pacific Source.
Pacific Source, that's who I was
Totally,
thinking of. Yeah.
totally sorry.
Right, it is Pacific Source and not necessarily Providence. So,
Right,
yeah.
CCS just switched from Providence to a different health insurance provider. So
Okay.
that's why I have Providence in my mind. I'm very
Right.
sorry.
No, you're fine. I knew where we were going with this. I guess, with the county, we are the mental health authority for our particular area. And
Right.
for us to really be able to work and fall under the umbrella of the CCOs, it's going to be extremely important that I think that we collaborate and work together. And of course, that's one of the reasons why I've consistently worked on Sherman County of switching to CCS as their mental health contracted. But to no avail up to this particular point. But I know I'm rambling here a little bit, but it is going to be very important for us to really take a hard look at what the next step's going to be, and I'll do the best that I can in lobbying that we stay where we're at.
Well, I appreciate that, but I do, because CCS has 4 counties and somebody's going to be split. If you just think about about 2 of your providers, North Central Public Health District and CCS, one of us is going to be split with the counties that we have. And so I've been happy with USCCO, but I might have been happy with Pacific Source too. I really don't know. I would, of course, as you will, encourage you to talk with your medical providers, because for volume of service, they have the most. And they're going to have some feelings or opinions, I would assume, between the Arlington clinic and the Condon clinic about where they would like to be. And so what I would lobby for is something that I know Judge Schaefer has worked on, and maybe all of you as commissioners have. Each year there's grants that come available through EOCCO. In the past, they've been called incentive grants or they've been called transformation grants. And for Gilliam County, it's been, depending upon the grant, 40 to 80,000. And those dollars, I think, have been instrumental. You've been able to use them in ways that you see fit within your community as it pertains to healthcare. And they have to be tied to some of the determinants of health or the markers that EOCCO or all the CCOs are rated on or judged by the state, such as A1C screenings, things for diabetes, specific to mental health. Did they get screened within 7 days of discharge from being released from a hospital? For kids that are enrolled in child welfare services, did they get a behavioral health screening within 30 days of being placed? So there's a variety of screens, and the grant applications or the RFPs have to be tied to that. Unfortunately, this year, they said that they weren't going to fund existing programs for the most part. And I think that in rural counties, that creates a challenge because their assumption is, or expectation is, that you will find alternative sources of funding to maintain the program if you like it, and that just doesn't exist. So the programs are going away. You have the money there, you get to build a new program, and you're hearing a little bit of my bias, and then in 2 or 3 years, hopefully you've found money to sustain it, because it's not in a good way. So if you feel, as I do, which I'm not presuming, proposing that you do, but if you feel as I do, I think that the MOU is an opportunity for you to voice your opinion on that or anything else that you would like to see happen within your county. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that, or when the MOU comes in front of you to share with you again, not the particular little slide that I'm looking for. And that was discussed briefly too, I think, at the meeting, but did I miss anything for plugs for the MOU, the counties?
I don't think so.
Okay. The last thing that I wanted to talk about is the last PowerPoint that I printed off for you. I'm going to run through it. There's, as you know, there's a suicide epidemic, and highlighted by some celebrity suicides. Gilliam County has a history with suicide. Grant County recently had 4 suicides in about 9 months, and that was significant for that county, even though they're larger. Just like 4 suicides in 9 months is a lot. Wheeler and Morrow are at average or just slightly below average. The 4 suicides in Grant County really impacted our staff, and I decided that I wanted to look at some initiatives or find an initiative that we can do as an organization that would potentially be helpful within our organization as well as our communities. So we are going to, as an organization, implement a program called Zero Suicide. I'm just going to run through this with you quickly. I promise to not read it word for word or spend a lot of time on it. The second page says what I'm going to say, that in the month before an individual's death by suicide, half of them did see a practitioner. That's significant. 50% were seeing somebody in healthcare, and 30% of those saw a mental health professional. So just simply stated, there's an opportunity for outreach and an opportunity to ask more questions. 10% were seen in an emergency department. Obviously, suicide is preventable. Next page is the amount of, or the increase in suicide that as a nation we are seeing. Oregon, though, exceeds the national standards. National, we're up 13%. Oregon has had a 28% increase from 1999 to 2016. We can talk about the reasons why, but you probably are versed on them. It is the 8th leading cause of death in Oregon, and somebody dies in Oregon by suicide every 11 hours. And more people die by suicide than by homicide in Oregon. 6 times more likely to die by suicide than by homicide. The clinicians have training. You know, we have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, but not one course. I was looking back on my transcripts. There's not one course in my college career that was specific to suicide. And in fact, I found a syllabus for one. It was a course on depression. A course on depression had about 3 hours of talk time for suicide. It was more about treating it with the medications. It's common for clinicians to have about 8 hours of training a year on suicide, which I think is not enough, given the epidemic that we're facing. And in this next page, you can see that 40% are reporting they don't really feel like they have the skills. 44% say they don't have the training. So why zero suicide? It is the only practice that is evidence-based. There's an excellent toolkit. It starts with your front desk staff, so it doesn't leave those most important people behind. When somebody calls and they say, I'm not feeling well, does that rise to the level of getting them to a clinician or not? And in the past, we've just said, okay, well, would you like to talk with your clinician now or later? They're in an appointment. Right now they're busy, which most of us are caring people and thoughtful and like, well, I don't really want to bother my clinician. It can probably wait. And then they commit suicide. So we miss an opportunity at the time of that first phone call to do a brief screening. And that's one of the components of zero suicide is asking just 2 questions to help drill down a little bit more on the imperativeness of them being seen if they already have an appointment. Just an example, I'm not going to go through all layers, but it starts there. It includes the board of directors. It includes making sure that you guys have information, and it's outreach to the communities. It's a step-by-step process. It'll take us about 2 years to fully implement. It's very time-consuming and invasive. As I said, it starts with the front desk. But as I come back to you, I'm going to give you an update on where we're at in the process and try to keep you informed on what we're doing with the Zero Suicide Initiative. We'll be the first community mental health program to implement it in the state. We'll be working closely with OHSU to receive some funding at the national level to do this. Do you have any questions on that? My daughter kind of wants to call back there.
Oh, well, we kind of got a little bit of a late start, so, you know, we're doing fine. Any questions for Kimberly? Good.
So that's it. I try to have 4 or 5 things. Those are
Yep.
4 things. Do you have any questions for me in general on anything CCS or specific to Gilliam County?
I guess one, how'd your review go? Have you got any reports back yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Overall, it went very well.
Okay.
In fact, she did a report to the board of directors on Monday night. I was curious what she was going to say Monday evening. I'm going to send you the report. She said that she started off by saying that there are a couple of things clinically, programmatically, in policy that we need to change. And then she spent the next 15 minutes talking about how impressed she was with the services that we do. So it's hard for me to, I feel like I'm bragging sometimes, but I really lobbied her to come out to the rural communities. I mean, all of our communities, not just come to Boardman. And it was an uphill battle, but they agreed. We haven't had any state site reviewers come physically into the county for, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't think as long as I've been working in Gilliam County, I'm not aware that of a time that they've been physically present. They've called you.
Right.
I think,
Oh, yes, a couple of times.
but they haven't came on site. So I was very pleased. And she couldn't talk enough about how much that impacted her opinion of the services that are being received, especially in Gilliam and Wheeler County. So so I'd love for you guys to talk to her, because it's hard for me to say this, but she just said that it's pretty amazing the staff that we have on site in all of our counties and in Gilliam and Wheeler, the level of services that we provide, the consumer interviews that they had, people were very happy. There were a couple of things that they didn't like, but overwhelmingly the comments were very positive, and she felt that we're a model for Eastern Oregon, which is very nice. So, good. And I'll share the report with you when it comes.
Good.
There are, there's probably 10 or 11 different things that we're gonna have to address clinically, so I don't wanna minimize that. Some treatment plans that were lacking, some signatures, some treatment plans that weren't individualized enough, some assessments where the diagnosis didn't quite fit what was presenting for symptoms. Some assessments that were missing an ASAM, which is a tool that you use for people that come in with addictions issues. Again, so not to minimize that, but overall it went well.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah. I'm sure.
Thank you for your support and for being a great county to work with. As I drive down here, other than, feeling bad about the ice, I was thinking that I really enjoy working in Gilliam County. I think I say that every time, but I can't say it enough. Just a reminder, I get to work in 4 counties, so I'm qualified to say
Okay.
that.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Yep.
Anything for Mike?
I'd like to compliment you on the fact that you take care of this part of our health program that we're in the county here. It is so complicated it's hard for us to see the whole picture unless you're working with it pretty more frequently like the judge does. But the county commissioners have quite a challenge in trying to follow all this and try to keep up. I mean, it's too complicated.
It's too much, right?
And we need a big organizational chart or something to help us see this bigger picture and how this, I mean, there's too much of this that gets so tangled up that pretty soon I think that at the state level, we've got a lot of waste in the way it's organized. I mean, they keep taking the concrete mixer and turning it, and mixing things up, and boy, we start tumbling out like we don't know what's happening.
There is a lot, and 20 years ago, I didn't understand what a commissioner did. I understand the way just the general public does, but I have so much more respect for all of the things that you are expected to know, and what your constituents expect you to be on top of. So when I say I could come in and talk for hours, it's something that I'm thoughtful about as I'm preparing for the meeting. I never want you to feel blindsided. And if I got to talk to you and spend as much time with you as I would like to, you wouldn't. So how much is too much? When's enough? When do I start to lose you with details that are important to me, but understandably you just can't, track everything. So anyways, I just have tremendous respect for all the things that you guys are supposed to do. Healthcare, to taxation, to roads, to personnel policies, or who's going to clean up, who's going to make the coffee in the morning. And sometimes that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we can kind of move on. Thank you, Kimberly.
Yes,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
it. It's really
Thank
good to see you. Sorry we missed you in Eugene. So some other time,
I
okay?
saw you all in
Yeah.
passing.
Yeah,
So
so,
it's-
good. Drive safe, good,
Yes.
heading home.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
All right, our next order, we're running just a little bit late, about 15 minutes. Alan, have you next. Alan Anderson and Leah Shannon, the wait time, quarterly report. All right. Thank you. Howard?
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
haven't seen this weather yet. It's like a surprise coming in.
I
So-
was not.
You gotta come to Condon in December, I guess, to see
Right.
some of that. I had not had that benefit yet. But wanted to give you a quick update on Columbia Ridge Chem Waste. And I guess first and foremost, wanted to say thank you to the court and to the county, all of the supporters of waste management. Metro has approved a new 10-year agreement with Waste Management that starts in January of 2020. There were back and forth on the negotiations. Of course, the devil's in the details when it comes to contract negotiations. And for the past 5 to 6 months, we've kind of gone back and forth. And it went to the Metro, as I understand it, went to the Metro Council, has been approved. And so we're just waiting to get the signatures on it. And we're ready to rock and roll for another decade. That contract does have 2 5-year extensions associated with it that are possible as time moves on. Walsh Trucking will continue to move the waste back and forth. We're changing some things up at the landfill. We're offering a dray service at the landfill, which currently Walsh does. Waste Management will be doing that in the future.
Can you explain the dray service?
Essentially, so Walsh has a sort of a staging area.
Right.
They bring trailers in and drop them off, and then they run them up to the landfill throughout the day and evening, and Waste Management will take over that component of it. So
Okay.
currently Walsh owns and operates its own tipper. Waste Management will actually own the tipper and the operation. It, you know, in discussions with Metro and so forth, what we think that does for us is, for whatever reason, you know, a Walsh driver thinks, well, I have to go to my Walsh tipper. And if Waste Management is picking up the container, there are multiple tippers that are available. It's more logical, but getting that, you know, the drivers to change their mindset about, well, it's our tipper, I have to get our tipper. In any event, Metro liked the idea, and so we'll be working with Walsh to coordinate that. But starting in 2020, we will be doing the dray service. So it's kind of an added service to Metro, and I think it actually benefits Walsh. They're very good at moving vehicles back and forth. I'm not sure how much they actually like running a tipper and so forth, and I think they feel better about how it's going to work out. So I think ultimately everybody's a little happier with it.
Good.
But again, thank you to the court, thank you to all the supporters in the community. And one of the things we are going to try to coordinate is the early January, a little thank you reception in Arlington. We'll have hors d'oeuvres and maybe a libation or two, just to say thank you. We'll bring out our supervisors from the site and get everybody sort of a mixer and a thank you. So we will have more details on that forthcoming. We're working with the local groups there in Arlington to coordinate, schedule it, and so forth.
Okay.
I think that covers that. So volumes, Columbia Ridge, volumes are actually down year over year, almost 8%. The majority of that is in soil projects. Last year we did some 800,000 tons of soil. This year we're quite a bit lower than that. We're running about 300,000 behind through October. A couple of projects have started up, so that's not going to be, it's not going to be less than half. But we are doing somewhat less volume this year versus last year. Our container volumes are actually up, so it's sort of offsetting, I guess. Ultimately, we won't be, I think we're down 120,000 tons year over year total so far. The chem waste, we're actually down on volume quite a bit year over year, 14% for the year. Chem waste is sort of a project-oriented business, and some years are better and some years are worse, and this year is just lower in volume, essentially. Safety, we've got had a good quarter and a good second half of the year on our safety with no incidents. Hiring, Columbia Ridge, Chem Waste, we continue to seek employees, mostly drivers and operators for the Columbia Ridge side primarily, but Chem Waste does have a couple of positions open. Construction projects, Columbia Ridge finished self-construction. Actually, I've got it out of order. Chem Waste finished their self-construction. It has been approved, and we've moved into that cell at Chem Waste. And then Columbia Ridge actually finished their self-construction. We have moved into that cell. We also finished our rail siding. That's a 10,000-foot additional siding, which would allow additional volumes into the site. Originally, that was perceived or conceived as a possibility for Metro. Obviously, Metro chose to go with trucking, but we think there are some other opportunities. There's some large projects being contemplated and in consideration in the Portland area, so potential to bring some of that volume out via rail. And then, of course, the Seattle and our international, or extended area network with Chem Waste is also potential. So we think there's going to be value in that siding, certainly for the next 20 to 30 years. I think it's going to benefit us in Gilliam County. So a positive, even though we didn't get the Metro transport.
I guess, yeah, I agree.
Employee community engagement, we continue with the 4-H participation. We did hold an employee luncheon 2 days before Thanksgiving, and we continue to intermingle, try to keep the communications open and keep the folks engaged. And then again, back to the summary, tonnage is lower. Tonnage is lower this year. I don't anticipate that to be long term. I think next year you'll see it pop back up. So I think that's my update. If anyone has questions. I did ask Leah to attend, and we'll try to bring her in. If you have environmental type questions, she's obviously very knowledgeable in the whole facility, but certainly, she'll be in attendance as much as we can get her. So.
Will you be at the meeting tonight?
Yes.
Can you give us any update here on the clinic? Any new news?
So there's a litigation scenario that affects this somewhat, and I guess I'm not sure I can. We can talk a little bit about it maybe at the CAC. Kelly Grunquist was in the main meeting. I actually was not. I was on vacation, but Dave Lowe came in and met with the clinic. We are looking at ways to re-engage, but I can't make any commitments. This is what I would describe it.
Good. I really don't have any questions. I've had conversations with, of course, Jackie and Dean, and it was relayed to me as far as, the reception or the appreciation gathering. So also I did have a short conversation with Lynn Peterson, the new chair of the Metro Council, and we were pouring coffee together, so I was able to visit with her a little bit and extend my pleasure on the Metro contract. I had hoped that we would be done by this time. Everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed. I think we were all in that hopeful position, but they seem to be very appreciative of not only waste management, but Gilliam County and the approach that we took in gathering, getting this contract done. I think they were extremely pleased with being able to keep everything in Oregon and continuing to work with waste management. So,
I would agree with that. I think that the community involvement, the outreach, I know you came up to Metro and spoke with them when you were there. I'm not sure if you made it up, but Caitlin went in, Marla went in, and talked to the Metro, and I think that had a very positive benefit to the whole negotiation. I think there was I think what they were looking for was a welcoming community, and I think that Gilliam County stepped up and demonstrated that half of it. And, yeah, I think it was a fantastic team effort, and we appreciate all of your help.
Yeah, and then there's the Gilliam County Metro end of things and convincing Metro to insist on some of the west end tonnage that had been going down to Riverbend, actually having it to Gilliam County, Columbia Ridge. I think was a big thing specifically for Gilliam County. I'm not so sure that it's really a huge benefit for waste management, but it certainly is for us. And I guess what I'm saying is thank you for making that sacrifice. It is a huge sacrifice, but also it's highly beneficial to this county.
I think it's beneficial, though.
Good. I hope so. I was hoping you would respond that way. So. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
There's been something in the paper lately that kind of concerned me, that there's been an ad in there, somebody sounds like they're trying to organize the labor at Waste Management.
Yep.
I mean, here at Columbia Ridge. And,
We're aware of the ad.
yeah, I hope so.
It hasn't, to my knowledge, gone any further than that. I haven't heard, employees talking about it or showing concern about it.
Yeah.
So I've seen the ad. That's
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the sum of what I can say about that.
Well, I didn't figure you had a lot to say about it, but I just bringing it up.
Good.
I mean, it concerns me that, when that kind of thing happens, because it just makes the program a lot more rigid.
It could add some complexity, I would agree.
Yeah, and raises costs usually in that process too, so.
We can do that as well, absolutely.
All right.
We're aware of the ad. I
Yeah,
can't say
yeah.
anyone has reached out or pursued it beyond the ad, to my knowledge.
Okay, good. Any further?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Leah, Alan, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Greatly
Look
appreciate it.
forward to
Love
seeing
these
you guys
quarterly
in
reports, so.
Early January.
Okay.
If
For
we
sure.
don't see you before then, we'll see you.
For
in
sure.
early January.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, you got me. All right, real quickly, before we have about 5 minutes here with Michelle, we do have item number 2.3. It's consider the Port of Arlington's request for release of budgeted funds. These are funds that are really for the feasibility study that's going on for the irrigation project. Anyway, it's in the amount of total billing is $11,124.25.
That's year to date, it's the 7,000 that they're asking.
Okay, it's $7,181. Oh, that's right, yeah, it is. Okay.
The 7,000.
Yeah, it's a $7,000 figure.
I move we approve the release of the funds.
Okay.
A second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to release the funds to the Port of Arlington in the amount of $7,181.50 for the irrigation feasibility study. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Also, we can kind of pick up here, Columbia Basin Electric has a, they're looking for a right-of-way that at this time it's actually been approved by both Dewey and Michelle. What it really is it's a road crossing. It's going to be temporary. There'll be underground that is actually parallel with the road, and it's really to supply service to the laydown area on the Monte Wind project. So it's pretty self-explanatory, I thought.
Yeah, there's two parts to it, the permanent part too.
Right, there's the
Yeah.
permanent part and then, there's the temporary part that is really the aerial that's going around, and then there's
Right.
the underground that is going to be.
Because it's all to do with the Montec project.
Yeah, I just don't know how soon they did. The understanding that I had was that really the aerial part would be happening almost immediately, and the underground was going to be, not really sure when it was going to happen,
Yeah.
so.
I move we approve the right-of-way request by Columbia Basin.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the right-of-way application by Columbia Basin Electric. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The next one is going to take just a little bit longer. Let's move down to 2.7. I think we can cover it in a couple of minutes. And that's the notice of withdrawal of the request to end the court stenographer's contract. At our last county court meeting, we had a letter from Mary Dyer that she was no longer going to be able to supply services to us due to some other work that she had coming up. That other work has not come to fruition. Am I correct in saying that, Mary? Would that be?
It just turned out to be more trouble than it was worth, really.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we get that cleared. She would like to withdraw that request.
I move to accept High Desert Writing Services withdrawal of the request and the court stenographer contract.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the withdrawal request of High Desert Writing Services for the contract to supply services.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to, right now, I think we're just about a minute early, back on schedule. Michelle, can we go ahead and begin with you? Planning Director, Michelle Colby, and her quarterly report. Good morning.
Good morning. So all the members of county court received my written report with your packet last week. So rather than me regurgitate everything that you've already read, I'm just here to see if there's any questions or concerns and just to kind of summarize and highlight moving forward, because most of the report is everything that's been done. So there's really no question, it's already been done and has been processed. But moving forward, just to remind the court that we, the county court and Department of Land Use and Conservation entered into an agreement for some planning assistance, and that project was put on hold when I was on leave in the spring, and so that project will be starting again in January, and that project is to focus on a comprehensive review of Article 4, which is our exclusive farm use in our zoning and development ordinance, and so that's supposed to kick off in January.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be very time consuming, but something that is needed, and we're gonna muster and try to get through it as fast as we can.
So I assume there's probably public meetings involved in that.
There will be a lot of public meetings involved in that. It's a legislative process, so we'll have several meetings, work sessions scheduled with the Planning Commission. And when the Planning Commission reaches a point where they're ready to say we're good with all the tweaks, then they'll hold an official public hearing and say this is what we're doing moving forward, and then they'll make a recommendation to hopefully forward something to the county court, and then a public hearing will be held by the county court as well for consideration of adoption and changing that section of the code. Yes, lots of public will be involved.
Yeah. Just a little bit of background with that. This was kind of a resolution to Senate Bill 243, which was the one that allowed 7 counties to really make a adjustment to their land use that really broke them away from the old Senate Bill 100. Go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt. So there's two things going on with the Department of Land Use and Conservation. One is this, the project I referred to as the model code update, and they've been doing that for several years.
Right.
And the model code update is a way to try to get back to periodic review, which the state did away with. And at one point in time, there was periodic review, which the counties were required and mandated to review all of their development codes on a regular basis, and the state
That's right.
And the state would provide funding, and they go
Right.
through this very lengthy and elaborate process, and due to funding streams and resources and everything, they went away from periodic review. Well, they've kind of decided that maybe not have been the best thing, especially for the smallest jurisdictions. There are a lot of planning jurisdictions in the counties that have lots of staff. And so they've taken on their own periodic review and they do it internally. For these smaller jurisdictions, it hasn't been something that's been as feasible financially and with human resources. So that's where they came up with just in the last several years.
Yeah, I stand corrected
model
on that.
code.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, you were
But
right.
yeah, so the other
Yeah.
project is where we're doing the economic study.
Right.
Yeah.
Trying to
which is
determine,
the Senate
which
bill.
is the 7
Yes.
counties.
So that is involving me as well.
You are correct.
I'm hoping it's not gonna be as intensive, that economic study. I know Rachel's being pulled into that program as well, project. They're asking for a lot of zoning layers and comprehensive maps and stuff, and so I'm working with DLCD on that. Which is good, because we'll hopefully have something that we can publicize and say, here's the actual map, and it's been verified. We have a lot of draft, and we go back and forth with them. So that's a different project.
Yes.
They're both underway right now
Yes,
with
they are.
DLCD.
Yes, I'm
So-
sorry,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry, I didn't mean it.
No, you
Cut
were
you
absolutely
off.
right, because I did get the two of them actually crossed.
Yeah, so we
And,
have two things going on with
yeah.
the department.
Yeah. And when was the last time that we actually did a review of our zoning?
I believe,
I want to say it was done in 2010,
I was gonna say
maybe?
2010 was probably the
Yeah.
most comprehensive, because we've
Right.
done just different incremental changes since then, but that was probably the biggest lump sum of
Right.
a review was done in 2010.
Yeah, that was,
From
I
what
mean,
I
it was a
can tell.
huge project. Consistently meeting with the planning commission, getting it to the point to where we could actually bring something to the public. Took a, extended amount of time, so, I guess be sure and let your planning commission know that there'll be, extra time that's involved in
There'll
getting
be,
this
yeah,
accomplished.
there's gonna be a lot of meetings
Sure.
in 2019.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's immediately on the radar. And there's other things coming up, but I just wanted to highlight that because we're on a financial contract with DLCD for those two things.
Okay, one more thing, Michelle.
Yes.
We have Montag Phase 1 coming in. There seems to be an awful lot of discussion going on around Phase 2. Any updates on that?
I don't have any updates on
Okay.
phase two. It's still, as far as I know, and it's my understanding that that's going through the state process.
Okay, FSAC, sure.
Yep, the Energy Facility Siting Council, and they're doing an amendment, and I don't believe that amendment has been fully adopted yet. I think they're still asking for information back, and so it's still in that process of trying to finalize that last amendment that's in the works for phase two.
Okay,
And I believe that's amendment number 4
okay.
that they're still trying to figure out. But yes, it's my understanding, phase 1, they've broken ground. There was a meeting last week. I think that some of the county officials were able to attend to, and incoming electeds were able to attend to. I was unable to due to some other conflicts, but it's moving forward, phase 1, so,
I
yeah.
think, just Avangrid has done a really good job of reaching out to the landowners and those who are going to be impacted in the area, along with their contractor, Res, has done a really good job in trying to. I did have conversations with Res, just so, for the sake of everybody in the room, they're looking to do some investment into some sort of project within Gilliam County. They've talked about, one of the things that I threw out to them was maybe a similar type wellness center that we had in Condon, maybe in the Arlington area. So, just kind of work your mind on anything and be sure and get that information off to them, because they are looking to create an opportunity here.
Oh, great, good to know.
Yeah, so that's news.
The building codes.
So I'm just kind of monitoring and trying to stay abreast of what's going on with building codes. As the county court has been more active than myself, it's just kind of, I'm a part that has to deal with the building codes. And when McCog, Mid-Columbia Council of Governments, dissolved, building codes went to the state, and it's still being ran by the state of Oregon right now. But it's my understanding there's some discussions, in particular with Wasco County, maybe at least Wasco County, because they were one of the 4 members in McCog, may not want to stay with the state of Oregon building codes process right now. And it was set up, I understand, that is an interim, and I don't know how long this interim will be, that our building codes is applied by the state of Oregon. But, so it's a discussion that's, I think, surfacing again, or probably never really went away, but I know Wasco County is getting into a lot more discussions, and I've heard from their planning director that she's really inquiring about how other counties they are supplying their own building codes, and how they do it, and permitting, and staffing, and all those requirements. So I think Wasco County is very serious in their pursuit of what they might want to do, if not collectively with us, or just separate away from the arrangement right now. So I'm just trying to follow that. All that transition happened when I took leave, and so it's just been very interesting of how contractors have been working with the new setup with building codes, but they do have, I believe, permanent staff down there now in the Dalles. And I've had some great conversations with the staff, and they call me when they have something that came in that I hadn't forwarded them because I never received an application, so that was a great thing, that we're having a good working relationship, partnership right now. Change is not always smooth, and so there are those concerns out there from other individuals that, you know, it went from a cog now to the state, and not quite, you know, good or bad. People have different opinions, so I'm just trying to follow it because I have to interact anytime I do a permit. I have to copy building codes on it, because generally that triggers something else, and somebody will be walking into building codes for additional services and permits. So it's just something I'm monitoring to try to stay on top of.
Hadn't we heard something about it, the office closing in the Dalles, going, and just, you'd have to go.
Well, yeah, it's the state of Oregon temporarily set up an office in the Dalles when the COG shut down. The state is of the opinion that this is temporary, and until the counties make a decision on what it is that they want to do. I believe Wasco County had really made the decision, who was the largest player in this, Wasco County, that they were just going to turn everything over to the state. The moment that they found out that this was not going to stay in the Dalles, it was going to be moved to Pendleton, then they backed away and said, whoa, wait a second, we don't really want that to be the case. They met with the city of the Dalles on November 19th. The report that I got is that Wasco County is leaning towards taking over the building code services and contracting with the city of the Dalles. Now, their question to the small counties is, what do you want to do? Do you want to contract with us or stay with the state? To me, it's really a decision that I think impacts the county for a long period of time, and I'm not so sure that this body should be the one that makes the decision. So consequently, I think I consistently talk with the people at the state. Of course, Wasco County at this time, the plan is for, or the hopes are, is that the small counties would contract with them. We have reserve funds that mostly come from the wind projects. They're hoping to be able to utilize some of those funds at the administrative end of things, specifically in preparing a building to get it up and going, because they know that they don't have the space where they're at. Then, charging the smaller counties, the building fee and then transportation and additional costs that would carry out to service in our area. With that, they would pull out of the reserves to cover that until those were all gone. Then the counties would begin picking it up for that additional transportation, mobilization, and things.
So that picture hasn't changed?
Yeah, that picture has not changed at all. I've had a conversation with the director of building codes, Mark Long, just the other day. I don't have an answer for him.
Yeah.
I told him that I wasn't sure that I was going to have an answer during my time frame here. So, again, to me, I will say this: Sherman County felt that they just wanted to go ahead and turn it over to Wasco County to the state. I tried to relay the information that it was going to be out of Pendleton, but nobody seemed to believe me. They were positive it was going to stay in the Dalles, and now we're at that particular point. So, what do you do?
Right, it's going to be something for the new members of county court coming in, and that'll be one of the things on their agenda to address. If Wasco County keeps pursuing this pretty hot, I'm guessing something will be tried to put in the mix before the next fiscal year in budgeting them. So this is something that's not going to go away. It's going to be right on the front door of the new county court that's coming in January.
I think the biggest issue that we have in the building codes, if we end up going with with Wasco County, the city of the Dalles, and providing services for us, is determining how much of those reserve funds are there.
Yeah.
At this time, the state does not want to do the servicing for the counties. They would prefer that the counties took it over. They want them to really work it out so that they don't have to go through this entire process of determining, who has what in reserves.
So it's a monitoring project for me right now, but yes, it's something that's big out there that will have a huge impact for Gilliam County. But it's not a decision that I have to make. It's something that the county court's going to have to participate actively in that decision moving forward, which I think even this current court knows that, and incoming one, electeds, I think know that too, so.
Are you keeping Dan Meter busy?
He's a snowbird, so he left before Thanksgiving, and so, if I need to call him, he's reachable via cell phone, but I haven't had a bug him recently, so, yeah.
Okay. Anything further,
All right.
Michelle?
No, I don't have anything but can for.
Okay.
All right.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Since I have a couple of minutes here, we have 2.10 and 2.11, which
Yeah.
it's the sale of the Potter Street property was purchased by Eileen Flory, which was an individual that we talked about earlier. She's employed by Colby. The total amount that was received was $3,749. Basically, what we're going to be doing is approving the sale of that property, which it really kind of fit into the. We do have some portion. It's similar to the Watson house that we sold up here. They do have some time limits on being able to get some things taken care of and specifically cleaned up and all the junk that is in around there. Any questions on? Yeah, I guess really where we're at is approving this certificate of sale.
And then I did a contract regarding this. She's going to have to sign, I believe it was 1/3 and a period of time for her to get it fixed out, and then pay
Yeah.
additional amount.
I think it was 1/3 clean up, 1/3, beginning the restoration process.
Okay, so on approval, I'll get that teed up.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to approve the certificate of sale so that we can get things kind of teed up for Ruben to begin the process.
I move we approve the certificate of sale for the 221 Potter Street property.
And this is sold to whom?
Eileen Flory.
So she'd be married to Deputy Tory Flory.
Seems like that needs to be, a promotion, but.
Yeah.
Oh, to who?
I mean,
Good point,
yeah. Anyway, I second it.
as revised.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the certificate of sale for the 221 South Potter property to Eileen Flory in the amount of $3,749. Is that
That's good.
okay?
Thank you.
All right.
So-
Any further discussion with that? Okay, there being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so I guess now I'd like to ask Ruben to get, if we could get something drafted in regards to the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, specifically 1/3 getting the ups, 1/3 beginning the restoration process, and then 1/3.
Okay.
Okay.
Noted.
Okay, the other thing that we have here is item number 2.11. It is the request from the Arlington Public Schools for the release of their funds in the amount of $450,000. This was done at budget time and it's utilized out of the SIP funds.
I move we approve the request.
Discretions. Okay.
I'll second. Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he gave all the numbers.
Yeah, I did, I guess, sorry about that. But okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve the dispersal of budgeted funds in the amount of $450,000 to the Arlington School District from the SIP discretionary line item. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so a couple of real quick things that we can kind of run there. So the next item, we have Marla Davies, which I'm a couple minutes late. Allowed us to take care of a couple of things there, Marla and Sabrina. And we have a transportation semi-annual report.
So I sent the report out late, I apologize for that. Does anyone have any questions, or do you want me to review each item on it for the record, or how would you like me to move forward?
Well, I think if you could just kind of summarize something real quickly on each section that we have here, so.
So our fleet information, we have purchased 2 more 2018 Toyota Siennas. We have a 2017 and two of the 2018s, and those are in Gilliam County's name. Those are not ODOT property. We used our brokerage revenue, donation revenue to purchase them. Since the FDA refuses to buy Toyotas at this point, but it is, I'm on a mission to get it approved because they are built in America. They cover the 65%, and there's really no reason they shouldn't be purchasing them, but that's just a little pet project I'm on. So that, we spent about $90,000 out of the coffers on that. And then the FDA approved vehicle was a 2018 Dodge Caravan, which is modified by Ability with their manual ramp. It looked like a great idea. It was a last minute purchase trying to beat the timeline for the grant before it expired. I couldn't get an extension. So they delivered it on the very last, on June 30th. And since that time, we've owned it 28 weeks and it's been in the shop 8 weeks of it. And it's still in the shop. No, I have no time limit at all when I'll pick it up. So that would be the one that's FDA approved as opposed to the Toyotas that are not. And then our RBOC is also undergoing some issues. I found out that we had 5 issues that we should have been notified of, so we could have got them fixed. They've guaranteed me they're not safety related, they're just vehicle longevity related, which on a $135,000 bus, I think it should have been something that I should have been notified about. And I've let them know that I'm not really happy about their way of doing business. And I'm still waiting for a date to get it in the shop because this time we still do not have a ramp. We have to use steps to get people in. So we went to the grant training on Monday. Got to talk over our new allocations, what we're going to be having in the STF, which those are the flex funds. Those that went down there about $98,000 for 2 years because those are based on cigarette tax, and a lot of people quit smoking. So that's why we started the STIF funding, because it's a more guaranteed rate because it's based on based on employment taxes. So we went through that, and I think I want to say the 5310 was right at I can't really remember. I think it was like a $178,000 for the biennium. So we're sitting pretty good money-wise. And then the STIF, of course, will be a half price this year of about $50,000 for the first go-round. They would only fund us halfway because they're just getting their coffers full to move forward. We'll be applying for that in May on the second round. And then after that, we'll have the $100,000 guaranteed at least. So it looks like, again, we'll be setting pretty well. The Gorge we went to the annual transportation conference in Bend, which was kind of upsetting because it was all based on the big counties, the $1 million counties. And I felt that the smaller counties really got shortchanged for the conference this year. The Columbia Gorge Transit Alliance, they're working to try to get a seamless from Portland to Ontario. It's a big thing to get the whole gorge covered by public transit. So I'm working with them. Our next meeting will be in January, and they're going for a grant through Providence, and they'll be meeting with all the health providers in the area, which will be nice because we've had problems with our population being ambulanced to a facility, and then they're calling us at 10 o'clock at night to come get them. And our services don't do that, and I've had people be able to get rooms and vouchers and all kinds of goodies if they ask for them at the hospitals. So it'll be a good time to get everybody in the same room where we can find out what's going on. And I did have one question for the court with regards to attending the meetings with McKen. Most of our transportation is in the McKen area. but we technically are still a GEODC member. So I haven't attended anything really that way, and I didn't know if that was something I should look into, if there's funding. I really don't know anything about GEODC at all.
Well, really, the reason why MCAD's involved with that is because they took over the transportation system for
Correct.
Mid-Columbia Council of Governments in that particular area. Really, it's, the Umatilla Moral, you had a meeting with them.
I did go
They're
there,
looking
yeah.
to do basically the same thing. And I think there's going to be a collaboration that really goes on between transportation systems that are setting down in the Harney County area all the way up to Pendleton, and then from Pendleton to, of course, the river.
Okay.
MCAD is really looking at that one stretch that really kind of led to our border with Sherman County.
Okay.
Beyond that, we're kind of in that no man's land. Again, you probably know, I'm clear up here. I know you're down in here a little bit more into some of it. But I think it's, for us where we're at, we're going to be kind of that mixing point between the two. I'm not going to say that GWC, I don't think they handle it at all if it was that Umatilla Moral.
Right. And I know they all
Yeah.
ended up deciding to keep their money. They didn't go for that.
Yeah, there was no
everybody played
sharing
together.
there was no sharing of
No.
funds or any of that. It was-
I
Yeah,
think that was a great
you and I
idea.
during the conversation, 3 months ago, we knew that was probably
That
going
was-
to happen. I mean, first of all, we didn't want to give up our money, so we knew that nobody else was probably going to want to do the same thing, so.
Silly.
Yeah.
Just plumb silly.
We only get 100,000, I think they get,
$1 million. You gotta
yeah,
get some
yeah,
money.
so, I mean.
Not $1 million, I'm sorry. No, it is.
Yeah, I think it's $1 million.
1.16, yeah, right.
Yeah, over it, so.
So the tribes will be very happy with their transportation system because they're gonna be partnering with Umatilla, so. So the STIP process, we have a public meeting on the December 11th, and then we have a schedule going all the way up through that will have us ready for you to review it, I believe in April, and it's due in May, so we're a month ahead of time, which some of you won't be here, but anyways, I just wanted to let you know we're on track for the STIP part. And then we have for the miscellaneous, Natalie Campbell. I'd like to let everyone know, or I would like everyone's feedback and approval that we have her work over the winter break. We have several things she can help us with, getting our files. She started out and did a great job to begin with. And so we'd like her to continue with that. And then we bought the Survey Monkey yearly subscription. And if a lot of people are using that anymore. It is kind of silly for everybody to purchase it if they can use ours. So I'd kind of like to have her maybe promote that a little bit. If there was, I don't know if your local wants to use it, but it was something we could put out there to save money for other people if they're interested. I just thought it was a good way to partner things, and she could go out and sell it for us. When it won't cost, it'll be free for everyone. We've traveled almost 132,000 so far, just through September. And we talked about moving outside the courthouse perhaps. And with the bus barn, it was unsuccessful, too expensive, I understand that. I would like you and the new court, I'd like everyone to put their head together and see if we can come up with a solution where maybe we could have a transportation hub at some point. And I'm going to hold off on all funding. I won't be looking for funding until we have a solid proposal. Because I jumped the gun last time, obviously, so I don't want to do that again. And we went through the site review, and I'm supposed to be getting with Ruben, and I kind of forgot to get with him before the meeting. So I know we have some things to discuss. But he's bringing us up to where they want us to be with the FTA levels as opposed to ours. And he thinks, from the little I spoke, I think he's got that all figured out for us. And then
I haven't figured out what we need to do, but I need your help to get some info to plug stuff in.
Perfect.
So, yeah, you can just give me a call at your convenience.
Okay. And we had a few other things on there, and like annual vehicle inspections. They're really cracking down on a few things like that. We've got those in place. So all in all, our site review is looking really well. We're a little past the 90-day timeline, but a lot of people are, so we're okay. As far as, that's what Teresa said when I talked to her the other day. The brokerage with their contract in for the revenue. Dan Schwann's will be coming up, I believe, next week to look through and make sure that we're being all legit, that we're doing everything we're supposed to do and not overcharging. And the auditors had a couple questions about transportation. We've seen that, as far as I know, we covered those fine. And that's all I got for that.
Good.
Any questions, input?
Well, I hope your inspection with Dan goes good.
I'm sure it will. He couldn't inspect our new bus because he couldn't get it out of gear. So anyway, that's what we're gonna do.
So, you talked about the brokerage and STIF funds and Federal Transportation Association. Can you kind of give a breakdown on each one of those? Federal Transportation funds?
We would have, this year we'll have the $50,000 for the STIF. Next year, it'll be $100,000. And that's an annual amount, but in the past, we've been all on bienniums. As far as the STF, it's shrinking, but I think it's right at 98,000 for a biennium, so 47, 46.
So where it's the FTA funds come from the federal government directly, or these things that you apply for is?
Yeah, the 5310s,
Okay.
those are federal dollars, and they have really strict guidelines. We can only do things like mobility management, per wages. They're just really strict. The STF dollars are pretty flex. We can use them to fill in.
Those are
wherever
pretty much come from
and
the
those
states
states.
and, yeah.
Correct.
Right. And
But those are shrinking. And the STIF dollars are only for expansion of services. And they're not supposed to be used to always, we're supposed to find a way to expand these services and make them self-sustaining with these dollars. We're not supposed to use these dollars to keep it going forever. I think there's gonna have to be some flexibility with that because we're too small. We're gonna have to use them to sustain programs. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
And then there's the brokerage funds, which are basically, yeah.
That's our gravy, no doubt about it. We make 1,000, we make a lot.
Yeah.
And, but that's a lot of work taking the individuals that qualify for that.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're overpaid in any way, shape, or form. And I'm hoping with the new expansion of services to be going like once weekly or once bi-weekly to Hermiston and once to the Dalles, or bi-weekly, bi-monthly, we're not really sure yet. I'm hoping that's going to alleviate some of the pressure because people will be able to do some of their other trips on a designated route instead of our drivers just being hammered.
Yeah.
When they think it's just a medical appointment and then they find out these people have 5 and 6 stops to do it.
So these funds actually come through the CCO and what are known as non-emergency medical transportation funds. So that those, as we take more and more people to the doctor and so on and so forth, those are where those funds are coming from. And we, documentation, the data, they've supplied us with a software system that allows us to track them.
Yeah, Equaling does the invoicing and trips and everything. And then we just have to make sure our trip sheets that we have match
Right.
his,
His information.
and it's all good.
Yeah. And we've done really well up to this particular point on matching.
Yeah, we have.
We have, so.
And then we have, donations are always higher at this end of the county. I think it's probably because we have the lower income people using it in Arlington, and that's who these STIF funds are going to be based on, is we're going for the low income households. So I think that the majority of the money is going to be in Arlington spend.
Then there's one more source.
Yes, and
Yeah.
the HRTG.
Yeah. Veterans.
Yes, this is a great little program that we just get renewed every year. Contract's the same thing that it was last year. And it's $45,000, and we get to, with the money we take the federal, or the IRS rate for mileage transporting our veterans, so 52 cents, whatever, a mile. So that's what we charge them, and then if the drivers have a meal, we pay for it out of this fund. There's been a couple times where there was special equipment needed, like wheelchairs, so we've purchased wheelchairs with them, we have them. So we have a way to transport them in our vehicles if they need a wheelchair. And in the event that a veteran or my bus driver has to spend the night because they'll have a procedure on Monday and they get out Tuesday morning. It's easier for us just to pay for because we can get a cheaper room down there, $50 a night for a driver to spend the night. We're gonna save a whole lot more money than that just being on the road, so
Yep.
that's what I use it for.
And just a
And-
little bit of background on that, I mean, initially, that actually started off in the Veteran Service Officer's office at the VSOs here. And a couple of years ago, we got that.
This will be our fourth
year?
Yeah, he used to
How
be,
time flies.
Veterans officer used to reimburse us for mileage.
Yeah.
And then there was some issues and he quit doing that. And then this grant came about and it was $45,000 for all 3 counties, and that's when I got the transportation people together and said, we're not gonna let this go. This is our money. He didn't want to apply for it. He doesn't like to do that. He doesn't like to do grants. I understand that. So we just went ahead and pulled forward and worked with the ODDA and got it happening. So now we're all in our 4th year at 45 grand, so.
Yep, and it was a great job. I think it really solved a lot of problems that we had
It did.
going on here.
It's a huge amount of money, so,
Yes, yes, it
for our
is.
little area.
And it was just kind of sitting there not being utilized until Marla took it over, and kudos to her for really
Thank you.
taking the bull by the horns and
Yeah.
making something happen with it, so.
Step on a few toes, but that's
So
okay.
what we
It all
need to
worked out
do,
well.
yeah, we need to be able to approve this HR
HRTG, yep.
TG grant, yeah,
So.
the
yes.
Highly Rural Transportation Grant
Yes.
for
That's it.
Veterans Affairs. So, any questions for Marla in regards to it? It's very similar. I think it's almost identical to what we had last year. I think is it every year or every other year that we do this?
Every year.
Every year.
And it's nice, we don't have to put in for it. I mean, she says, we're gonna get a renewal, and it just shows up. It's like the best ever. It's like free money, yay.
Yeah. Well, it's not quite free. I mean, there's a lot of documentation.
There is a lot of
Yeah.
documentation, but it's not
Down
like
if
you
it
don't
has to be
fight
there.
for it.
So they're asking more of us.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
They're asking more of Sabrina. More documentation, it's always more documentation, so.
Well, I move we approve the grant agreement between State of Oregon Department of Veterans Affairs and Gilliam County in the amount of $45,000 for the highly rural grant agreement
Okay.
I'll second.
for transportation of veterans.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Let's see if I can. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the grant agreement between the State of Oregon's Department of Veteran Affairs and Gilliam County to supply the highly rural transportation grant in the amount of $45,000. That, you guys get that?
2018-19.
For the 2018-19 account fiscal year. So. Any further discussion with it? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Good. You know, just one thing, you're doing a fantastic job with the transportation system. I mean, you know, when I first got started, it was right around $200,000 a year that we had in revenue. It was coming in and supplying rides to people and for medical care, for veterans, all of these. And today, we're up around a little over $800,000 of funds
There's
coming
more
in.
out
We have vehicles, we have all kinds of things, and, you know, it really reflects on you, the amount of work that you put into this and the improvements that we have in the system. You know, I just want to relay this to the people. It is really outgrowing what 2 people are able to do, hence the reason for looking at a different location and developing a hub. I hope that, you know, the new court takes a hard look and spends the time that it's going to take to completely get the in-depth information that it takes to fully understand what is going on here and what needs to be done as we go into the future. Because as Sabrina had made the comment, the veterans thing, so is the STIF grants, so is all the other grants that we have are going to require more and more data, information that gets supplied with it. So, anyway, thank you.
So,
Good job.
Real quick, I think you guys asked for approval on Natalie Campbell. I don't know if we can.
Oh,
we
we did not.
Yeah, we did not. Again, you know, to kind of touch a little bit on some of the things that are going on within their department, I think it's a natural. We have an individual who's already, you know, accustomed to what has been going on for this short period of time. I think it's, you know, the perfect thing to have her during that time to allow this,
And then
these people to
college,
get
she
caught
told
up.
me the college is also gonna give her credits for her
Okay.
internship with it, so.
And I appreciate you explaining a little more what she's gonna be doing during this time too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna put her to work. She was, well, I want to work a little bit, this, that. Serena goes, it's 4 days a week. She goes, you have the other 3 to play. So you're coming in. Just the way it is.
You know, I'm sure that's just about the way it came out of Serena.
It's like, come on, Natalie. You shorted us this summer, so.
Okay.
We're gonna pay now.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have just a little bit of time. Do we? Okay, why don't we go ahead and take just a little short recess? We're going to run a little bit longer, so we'll take a break for just a minute. Recess and back into session here. We have a few items in our action items that we can kind of, I guess, begin sort of taking care of. Let's pick up on, I think real quickly, we can look at 2.8 and 2.9, which are the approval of the Omega Morgan lease and track usage agreement, and then also the Sutler Station water purchase agreement with Kevin Hagwood. Then we'll see if we have enough time to come back to the batch plant conversation, which really changed as of yesterday afternoon and this morning. We had conversations before. Omega Morgan is really interested in leasing the entire industrial park for a staging area for the components that come in for the Montauk Wind project. A couple of things that we had to deal with, of course, was there was discussion that a lot of this would be coming in by rail. That really has, I think, changed. There are some issues with the size of the blades, which I guess I heard about 3 weeks ago. Well, it was during the week of the convention. Apparently, the length of the blades, the size of the nacelles, all of these things, and the difficulties of being able to get to the tunnels, bridges, so on and so forth. So I'm not sure how much rail is going to be used now. But we still have the agreement with them that if they do use it, that, you know, there is something that comes in. Again, there is a map of the leased property that they're looking at. It's fairly extensive, the amount that they're going to be using. And they're wanting to take anything that they can get, basically. Now, what we have in this agreement, initially, we were talking about a year long with this. Of course, this project isn't going to be that long. What they would like to be able to do is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Ruben, but I think it's for 6 months.
Yes.
And then after that, it goes on a monthly basis, being tiered down based on the amount of property that they use. They feel that the whole thing will be done in a 6-month period of time. Initially, there were 2 things that really went on with this. First of all, they had the request. And then the second one was that we had the contractor request for property also. So at that time, the contractor, RES, I had suggested, okay, since we've already promised, and this goes all the way back to Commissioner Gronquist and years ago with Omega Morgan, giving them, I don't want to say right of first refusal, but said that we would, you know, work with them initially whenever we could. Eric Zander with Omega Morgan brought that up. I said absolutely we would. So with Rez, I said that it would be possible for them to work out a sublease with. They've decided not to do that. They chose the other location that we were talking about on the power. So consequently, all of that kind of fell to the wayside. The big, I think, you know, issue that we have is the length of time of this contract and moving it from a year down, and then tearing it down to what it is that they do use. Omega Morgan seems to be pleased with what's here, so it's really for us to.
So this one reflects the shorter time period.
It does reflect the shorter time
And
period.
so that's the
yes.
difference between what we did last time versus.
Yeah, versus
today.
what is going on
Yeah.
today.
Okay.
And really, it's, their subleasing abilities are not in this. I don't believe, maybe I'm wrong.
It's the general sublease terms that they would have to get permission.
Right,
So,
going, okay.
This one was, reduced to a 6-month lease term. I was just going over with Sandy, I couldn't recall if we did a resolution at the last one authorizing the previous lease or not.
We did.
Just checking into that.
Yes.
Okay, all right, we did. Excellent, thank you, Sandy. This changes things in that it's a lesser term and it allows Omega Morgan to lease a little bit less property after that initial 6-month term. One thing I did though is I wrote it out so that they can reduce the amount of property, but they have to do it in chunks. They can't just say, well, we want to reduce by an acre here or an acre there. There's the 4 chunks on the map, and if they're going to reduce, they need to reduce by the whole chunk. But just so it's not tying up our property with spots here and spots there. Other than that, it's basically the same lease that we reviewed last time.
And also, I think we talked about December 1st start date, and they wanted to move to a January 1 start date. I don't think, if I remember right.
Yes, yeah, so it'll effective January 1st.
Right.
For 6 months.
Go ahead.
You're almost done, you better do it.
Oh. It's the industrial part.
Okay. I move that we approve the lease with Omega Morgan and the tract usage agreement.
I think as delivered to us, contract.
Yes.
Yeah. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the lease of real property agreement with Gilliam County and Omega Morgan for both the property and tract agreement. Any further discussion with this, as delivered to us?
Yes.
Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Okay, now I'm going to drop into the water lease agreement that we have. Kevin Hagwood initially called about 3 months ago, asking for the ability to do a water purchase agreement from the Shelter Station Industrial Park. He was talking about 75,000 gallons a day, of which we had a huge concern as to whether that facility could handle that much water in each day. He come back later, probably a couple weeks after that, and said, well, that he was actually trying to, the past wind projects have actually purchased the water from, what the name of the ranch? No, they purchased it from the ranch that Eubanks had, Larry Eubanks, I can't remember. the name of the ranch. Plateau Farms.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So a huge amount of water was purchased there, but they did not have the water permit to be able to supply it. Today, they now have that water permit. During this period of time that the agreement come with Kevin Hagwood and whether he wanted to go ahead and use the counties or the industrial park, he was working on trying to get that permit taken care of. He's got it done. So this really would be just a backup for supplying the water to being used within this facility. So, but, you know, as I told him, you know, at this time, I really had nobody else who would reach out to us and wanted this agreement. I have to say that Peter Mitchell with the Port of Arlington, I believe, had somebody reach out to him, but we never got any specifics on it, nothing other than he was inquired about it.
Yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
Right. So Kevin Hagwood does have the contract, I know that, with the construction company and the developers. So
Right, but I believe this is non-exclusive though, so that if somebody else.
Somebody else needed it,
water,
they
we
could get it.
certainly service
Right.
other people as well.
That is correct. That is correct.
If he does need to use this well as a backup, what type of, I mean, how many gallons of water a day are we talking about? This seems like a lot.
It is.
I mean, what do we anticipate? Do we have any idea?
I really don't have any idea how much he feels right now with the well and everything that he has out on his facility. He's got more than enough to handle what demands are gonna be there. But, you know, we also have a concrete batching plant. Now, I don't know how much of that is gonna be involved in the project. You know, there may be other entities that are interested in using it. I don't know how, right now, we don't have a process, for lack of a better way of saying it, and how this water is purchased, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, we're not really into the business of selling water.
No, it's always been small amounts.
It's always been small amounts, and this was a little bit larger. There is a meter down there, there is a hydrant, there's all of those things there, there's hoses, everything is set, ready to go.
Right.
We just don't really have you know, I guess one of the things that I thought about was maybe having Nathan Hammer on a, you know, monthly basis, or not monthly, but weekly basis, stop in there and maybe take a meter reading, you know, to see where we're at. Basically, right now, it's kind of on your honor. If you come in there and grab 10,000 gallons, or, well, it's not gonna be 10, 5.
Yeah. And with these kind of gallons, what's our reservoir capacity?
330,000 gallons.
Okay.
We figure that the pump will replenish about 55,000 a day. So consequently, it was going to be losing roughly 25,000 gallons per day. You know, the goal, the thought process with it was that they would not be working on weekends, which would allow that to be replenished during that period of time.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a lot of calculation that went into it to see if, you know, it was all going to work.
Right.
I believe that it will. You know, again,
Yeah, because I mean, from our standpoint, you know, we gotta have the water capacities that.
right.
And make sure we take care of a little bit that's being used right now.
Yeah,
And we want to make sure batch plants.
yeah, able to operate.
Yeah.
Do what it wants to do,
Right.
so.
Yeah, even though this is just a backup,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
gotta look at it in terms of, yeah, they're gonna do this.
Right,
And so that's all I guess is
yeah.
the only thing I was concerned about.
Yeah, I calculated.
It's not like the Columbia River.
It will be good to get that system flushed.
Yeah, we do.
It's been sitting there getting very little use.
Yeah, and I understand that.
I hope he uses it at least a few
Good,
days.
You know, from that standpoint. Of course, the water's been sitting down below for that time.
Right,
But,
I was surprised at I was just asking Ruben, I was surprised at the amounts we were talking about and what you know, I know that these rates per month, you know, are similar to what the cities charge.
right.
But if he were to use anywhere close to this in one day, you know, it'd be like $7,000 just for that day.
yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, it's incredible, you know. I have to say, I mean, you know, I was a little disappointed when he said it, because it would be a substantial revenue for the county over a period of time, but, you know, I also felt that it was going to require, you know, a period, so they had operated, I think it was like 15 days, and then they were gonna have to shut down and you know, not use it for, this is if they had the full 75,000. They were gonna have to shut down for, you know, 2-3 days.
Go back up.
So it's for it to replenish, and, you know, I explained all of that to them, and, going through the math and where everything would be with it, and they were very comfortable with that being the process. But of course, now it's all kind of a moot point because,
Yeah. But does it, I mean, and does this reflect that in this contract that we only supply what we have?
yeah, well, it did
Yeah,
not.
it says if available.
If available.
Yeah.
Up to this amount if available.
Right.
I didn't, yeah.
So I wrote it to say seller may purchase as much water as county desires to provide based on well output.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
County's not responsible for quality or quantity of the water in the event that the well is not able to provide.
Well, I think, I mean, it's good that they've got this backup.
It is.
I think that part, we want to make sure the projects go as smooth as they can.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's similar to the batch plan agreements.
Yeah.
yeah.
How long a time frame are they gonna be using? I guess.
So the construction's scheduled for around 6 months, so, it'd be based on the on-tech construction.
You know, what I can say during the winter, of course, there's this period of time to where they begin making roads open.
Yeah.
And the consumption of it is a little bit higher during that period of time. And then there comes a point in time to where it dries out. And so to control dust, it picks up and.
Right.
And I don't really know all the specifics of where they plan on using the water, but. Kevin is lives in Gilliam County, so it's sort of back and forth. Landowner in Gilliam County.
Yeah.
Yes, a place that they stay at occasionally, I think, with their farm.
Well, I don't think I have any questions.
Okay, I would move that we approve this water purchase agreement with Kevin Higwood.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the water purchase agreement between Gilliam County and Kevin Hagwood as written. Any further discussion? Okay. There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We've got Leah Shannon here. Economic Development Project Proposal. We're at noontime, so. Hi, Leah.
Good morning.
Morning.
Again.
You're going to talk this time a little more.
Yes, I am. You might regret that. So I am here this morning with a potential economic development project, and I am here on behalf of myself and my husband, Pat. So if you are a traveler on I-84 headed eastbound or westbound, there's a small town in eastern Oregon that is often overlooked. This small town is Arlington, Oregon. Arlington is located 2 hours east of Portland and 1 hour west of Hermiston. This is a stopping off point where many travelers stop to take a break while traveling on I-84. Earl Snell Park in Arlington is a beautiful marina and park on the edge of the Columbia River. This area is used for windsurfing and kiting, fishing and boating. There's a playground area for children, a swimming area, picnic tables, and horseshoe pits. There are approximately 650 travelers a day that utilize this park and rest stop in Arlington. The Village Inn, a vacated restaurant and bar, sits at this gateway from off of I-84 into Gilliam County. It is the first thing that people see when they exit their cars at Earl Snell Park for a rest stop. It is currently run down and dilapidated and has not been operational since 2014. Our proposal is to take this existing building and turn it into an attractive, welcoming restaurant for travelers and the residents of Gilliam County. We have owned and operated 2 restaurants in Arlington for the past 4 years, and we have seen a steady growth in freeway traffic through the restaurants and have built a reputation for good food and a nice place to stop. We have also listened to the residents of Arlington and Gilliam County express a need for a larger restaurant and a full-service bar in the town. We've watched the growth of the windsurfing industry, the increase in employees at Waste Management, and the wind turbine farms, and associated projects. We feel it is time to take what is, at this time, a very unwelcoming eyesore and turn it into a positive business that will contribute to the growth and attractiveness of visiting and living in Gilliam County. Our goal is to take the business that we have grown at River's Edge Deli and Barbecue and transfer it over to the Village Inn building. We would expand the menu, offering full breakfast, deli wraps, and salads for lunch and our signature barbecue meals in the evenings. This expanded space would allow us to cater large groups, parties, business lunches, and dinners. We have a vision of a somewhat rustic building using wood and rock native to the area. The interior would be large overhead beams, sliding barn doors, offering areas for large or small groups. We have an idea of an outdoor patio located on the roof of the building for evening dining and relaxation. The building would be decorated in large pictures of the county depicting beautiful scenic areas of Columbia River, the marina, Earl Snell Park area, the John Day River, the golf courses in Condon and Arlington, Condon's Main Street Park and Community Pool, historic Hotel Condon, and many other attractions and activities that our county offers. Included would be a gift shop area with hopefully a county chamber information area. That could possibly be manned by a chamber person a few days a week to greet customers and to promote the local area. Our hope is to use local contractors and builders for the project, also creating economic growth and sustaining these contractors by giving them business. We will explore the possibility of finding things that could be incorporated into the building. I have a thought of a bar that was built in fossil, the Shamrock, that a local artisan built out of juniper, possibly purchasing that, incorporating that into the building. Possibly using local talent to build specialty items in the restaurant and bar and showcasing local talent and businesses. Gilliam County is the home of some of the largest wind farms in Oregon. The wind farm business is ever expanding, and new families have an opportunity to find jobs and relocate to the county. The same is true for the 2 waste management facilities located in the county. Over the past year, Waste Management has hired over 75 new employees. Gilliam County is a rural setting that to an outsider may seem too remote with no amenities. As a partner to the economic development of Gilliam County, it is our belief that the resurrection of the Village Inn restaurant and the bar is a good place to start with a facelift for the town of Arlington and the gateway to Gilliam County. The Pheasant Grill is an iconic business in Arlington and needs to continue to be open and busy. We would like to entice someone to take the Davies building and bring in a much-needed gift shop, laundromat, drugstore. People in these small counties like Gilliam County must work hard to keep our towns viable, our schools full, and our businesses open. We feel that with the county self-utilizing various programs that are available, we could bring a much-needed business and asset to the town of Arlington back to life. We are not asking for your approval on anything today. We're asking you to look over the pro forma, think about the benefits that can be realized with this project. We're willing to take on the debt incurred to purchase the building. However, we are hoping that we can utilize economic development people and programs that the county has to offer to find funding for this project, realizing that oftentimes grants are not geared towards private businesses. It makes finding these type of funding challenging. As a small business owner in the county with the 2 restaurants, we employ about 15 people. These people in turn spend money in Arlington for gas, groceries, and medical needs. Opening the VI would keep people employed and be an immediate return on the investment into the building. Keeping people in the county working, their kids attending our schools, is truly economic development. We understand that there is a concern in the county with the buildings that have been built with no realization of use. This building would come with a ready-made business. We're not in this for the long haul. We would be willing to do the project and run the VI until we find someone younger who comes along who maybe wants to be an entrepreneur and own a business and invest in the community. We understand that there is a sort of dilemma with the need for housing to keep people. People don't want to live here because of the lack of amenities. It's sort of what do you do first to start it. I think we are seeing some forward movement with the housing project. Wind turbines are doing some large projects. 12 new employees will be hired at the completion of that wind turbine project out on Montague. So that's 12 new families into the community. If you wait for the housing to complete without helping the downtown area, people won't stay. If you do something to enhance the downtown area before you have housing, they don't stay. I believe you must jump in and do both simultaneously. If we bring people in with the available jobs provided by waste management, wind turbine companies, and other entities, then maybe there becomes a use for the wheat lab, the Gronquist building, and the Flex building. Without population to support all these things I've talked about, not much of it works. Economic development is not just about building buildings and hoping they will come. It's also about boosting up the businesses we have to enhance the experience of small town living. In closing, we welcome comments, questions, concerns, and hope that we can gain some support for this project. This is not something that can be approved without more meetings, more research and discussion on how together we can make it work. Even if you don't believe in this project, I would like all of you to think about what you truly would like your towns and the county to look like, and what the success story towards that goal might look like.
Thank you. Very well put. Good job.
Any questions? Tons, right? Sort of, but not.
Well, yeah, I guess when somebody first reached out to me, I guess it was the first part of November, I had conversations in October with that. As I had stated, it was all really, now it's entirely up to the new court coming in and the direction that they want to lead. What I'm going to say is I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it can be an anchor tenant in that particular area. I think it's really important for us to have that type of anchor tenant there. I think back and this is not to be critical of somebody at the time that they did it. It's just that the move that was made for the city of Arlington in creating for a strip mall type.
It was not well thought out.
It was, well, I think it was at the time. This was the supposedly coming thing that was going to happen in the future. And what we found over a period of time is that is not the case. You really need to have a huge anchor tenant there in making those little strip malls work, whether it's a Safeway or a Walmart or whatever it is. And I think this is what Arlington really needs, is that type of anchor tenant that can make a difference there.
Well,
the one aspect that I really do like is the fact that we end up with some sort of convention meeting type center that can be utilized. It's right there within the facility. We have a hotel that's next door to it. We have food that would be served there, and we have meeting rooms that would be available to it. So I think in the plan and some of the discussions, I think that's an important factor of getting this to be accomplished. But again, I'm not sure this body is going to be the one that's going to be able to do it, but I appreciate the fact of you introducing it to us.
And I passed out a pro forma that Pat has put together. Some of the numbers from the pro forma were previous, I think we used the pro forma from the pheasant that we did when we did that. We also used information out of another project that was researched called the Big Stone Lodge. I think it was done in 2011. And so there were some numbers in terms of travelers and things like that were done in 2011, and there was some information in here that was good information that we sort of utilized and transferred over. So he has some ideas. He's he's the money man, he's the financer. This stuff, if you have questions on that, I really suggest that you talk to him. He can walk you through it. I can move my way through the pro forma and understand it, and I am not financial minded. So if I can understand it, pretty much anybody can understand it, I think. I would hope to see some meetings, some sit downs. I would like to use the Pioneer CDC, Rachel with community development, Peter with economic development, and any help that we can get. We have these people who are available to help with these projects, and I would really like to get their support and pull them in and help us see if it's something that we can do. I mean, I have no expectation that this is absolutely to be done, but I think it needs to be researched. I think it's important. So, county's important to us, city's important to us.
Any change to the footprint of the building?
No, just maybe going up.
Leah, could we get a copy of that, what you read off to us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would help.
Yeah, we should have it part of the record anyhow. Have Sandy make copies. Okay, do we have anything further for Leah that you'd like to?
Sounds interesting.
It does.
Yeah.
It was at the time it was.
It's like a lot of work.
I think that it will be a lot of work, but I think that it's definitely worth it.
No.
You gotta start somewhere.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy, for squeezing me in.
You bet.
Okay, so I guess really we're just a couple minutes away from Shannon. Shannon, would you like to go ahead and get started
Sure.
early? And maybe we can, if we do have some other. So I would say good morning, but we're actually into the afternoon.
That's all right.
This was a thick one.
Well, there's an attachment.
Okay.
So I'm starting out talking about the emergency responses for fires. We had quite a few emergency responses across the county this year, as well as having mutual aid requests for outside of the county. North Gilliam County had 3 fires that were between 2,000 and 3,000 acres each. One was started from a down power line with a rekindle. There was a fire along the freeway that was an undetermined start, and a fire started by a windmill whose nacelle caught on fire. Additionally, the lightning storm on August 16th sparked numerous fires on the north end of the county, with 2 holdovers that started on August 17th. South Gilliam County, as most people are aware, had multiple large fires from the lightning on August 16th. There were so many fires from the storm on the south end of the county that we didn't have resources enough to deal with them all. In the 12 and a half years that I have been here, it's the first time that I sat in the office and answered phone calls and said, I'm sorry, I don't have anybody to send to you. Additionally, there were 3 natural cover fires in South Gilliam County that occurred after the 1st of October. 2 of those fires were controlled fires that escaped control. The 3rd fire was an accidental start from a propane can stove. It's been a fairly busy year for us. This is the most man hours, person hours, whatever you want to call it, that we have had during a fire season in the time that I have been here. So for the south end of the county, we spent a lot of time out on fires this summer. New equipment, North Gilliam County RFPD has gone out for bid on a new wildland urban interface truck. The truck will be used for structure fires and will be able to help with wildland fires as well, with some limitations for where it can be taken. The truck is due to be delivered in the early spring. So Blanchett, who provided the last 2 wildland trucks that we purchased, is the maker of this particular truck. I have added into this a clarification of the burn ban because it came to my attention recently that even some of our board members were maybe not aware of what is happening during the burn ban. So during the burn ban, which has been in place for the 12 and a half years that I have been here during the summer, we prohibit like burning barrels and just outside debris burning. Agricultural burning, with the exception of 2 weeks last year during the solar eclipse, has never been prohibited during the burn ban. We ask that certain things happen for agricultural burning to occur. We ask that folks that are going to burn call dispatch and let them know where they're going to be burning, who the responsible party is. They leave a phone number. We ask that they have suppression equipment available, and we ask that the fire be out by sunset. Other than that, agricultural burning in Gilliam County has continued to be allowed during the burn ban. We know that farmers have things that they have to get done at certain times of the year, and so that has not ever been prohibited. Training, we're continuing to finish structure training for 7 firefighters in the county. All 6 have completed, that should be 7, have completed wildland training and have been actively fighting wildland fire for the last 2 summers. One of those firefighters is from Arlington, the remainder are from Condon. Last week, SDAO, Special Districts Association of Oregon, came to Condon and provided the Drive Square training program with 19 people completing the program. There were 12 people from the fire department, with 5 of those folks on South Gilliam County Ambulance Service as well, and 1 person from North Gilliam County Fire who participated. The remaining 7 people were on South Gilliam County Ambulance Service.
The training consisted of a classroom training where we viewed 3 videos which needed to be done prior to us doing the hands-on simulation. The videos were defensive driving, winter driving, and distracted driving. And then the second part was a simulated driving course. So what they do, interestingly enough, is they come in and they will take one of the vehicles that you have available. They will put it up on these metal plates that are about this big around under the front tires. They hook a TV screen up so that you can have either a TV screen or you can use a virtual reality headset, and things are connected to the brake pedal and to the accelerator, and then they put you through different driving courses. The majority of folks who did the program used the video screen as opposed to using the virtual reality headset, because one of the things that we were told right off the bat is that people that get car sick tend to really have problems with the virtual reality headset. And the number of us that are on the ambulance that know that when we're in the back of the ambulance we get car sick, we opted not to even try the headset. And even had a few people who just did it on the video screen that said it made them a bit queasy. It was kind of a fun experience. I don't typically drive all over the road. I found it to be a little bit difficult to stay in my own lane with the virtual reality driving. But it was stressing more points that they wanted to stress about what you need to be looking for, what you need to be doing, more so than just being able to keep it in your own lane when you're driving an ambulance that isn't really going anyplace. So anyway, in-house training continues each month for the firefighters countywide. We're continuing that. Fire prevention and public education, public relations. We, Gilliam County Fire Service, participated in the landowner informational meeting held at the fairgrounds last week. Included on the day's agenda was information about the summer fires and the available resources that we have, information from the Fire Defense Board Chief, fire weather information, insurance and legal information, and plans for mapping and drone projects. So what we're hoping to accomplish with this is we're hoping to get some maps actually done that will maybe have local landmarks that aren't on other maps. So there's maybe a canyon that local people call a certain name, and it's not necessarily on the maps that we have. And so the idea is to get that mapping program done so that when firefighters are out on the fire, they can have a map available and the landowner can say, okay, we need to go to Kenny's Canyon, and they can look and they can see where Kenny's Canyon is and what it does. Also included in that mapping project is the idea that they would like to put what the roads look like, so maybe the slope of some of the roads that are available. So can you take a water tender down the road, or is it too steep to get those kind of vehicles down? So it's a pretty extensive project that they are planning on starting in the spring if possible. School programs, I will be teaching a wildland fire class in the high school at Arlington starting in late January. The class will run the second semester of school. The first information I received about the number of students in the class was for 24 students, but after speaking to Kevin Hunking today, that number might have increased. He said they have enough interest in the class that they may have to actually limit the number of students that want to be in the class. And the reality of it is when we start teaching those kind of classes, we need to have a manageable amount of people when we go out, because we go out and do hands-on training with them, and I need to have enough people available to help with that. It makes it a little bit dicey if you have too many people. So I want to talk a little bit about the Region 9 Fire Defense Board. We are part of the Region 9 Fire Defense Board. We are the only fire defense board in the state that is multiple counties involved. So our Fire Defense Board region is Morrow, Umatilla, and Gilliam counties. Our Fire Defense Board chief now is Scott Goff. He came in and started that job last year. This is the first time since 2006, which is when I started this job, that I'm aware of a request for assistance through the Fire Defense Board. We had this conversation a couple of years ago. There was some talk at that point in time that we would not be receiving help from Hermiston if requested, because we hadn't ever responded to mutual aid requests through the Fire Defense Board. And it's like, you've got to call us before we can respond.
And Scott and I have had that conversation any number of times, and I believe that part of the reason that we were actually requested this summer for mutual aid responses through that is because of the conversation that Scott and I had had. And also, they have set up a new notification system that they have, and they can put various people on it. And so when he would get a request for assistance, the notifications would go out. It would go out to Joe Claughton, who's the chief in Arlington, Jim Hinton, who's the chief in Condon, and myself. And then we were able to check and see if we had people available to respond to those requests. We actually responded with one truck to a fire that they had over in the Hefner area. We had a second request for fire up by Umatilla, up at Hat Rock Park, up in that area. And we didn't respond to that because before our crew got ready to leave town, they said they had decided they didn't need help, they had things under control, so we didn't go. So we have responded mutual aid requests to Morrow County any number of times, but this is the first time that I'm aware of through the Fire Defense Board that has happened. So I'm happy with that. I feel like a little bit better communication is occurring there. I talked in my last report about being going to a training for critical incident stress management, and our team was activated this summer to respond to a neighboring area after an especially bad motor vehicle accident. This is the first activation for our team, and I'm very excited about having this available for our community and for our neighboring communities. It's a really good thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about possible legislative solutions, and part of what is attached to your copy of this is the white paper that I was requested to write for Senator Hansel. And Judge Schaefer had been talking with Senator Hansel and a number of other legislators about the problems that we have with wildland fires here. And I have been harping for years on the fact that Washington does this different. And I don't always like to say, hey, where I came from is better, but where I came from for wildland fires was better. Because when a state mobilization is called in Washington, is if you have already expended all of your resources, your mutual aid resources, and you have a big fire going, they send help. You didn't have to be burning structures down. They would send help. So you could be burning up thousands of acres of whatever, and they would send help. Oregon has not done that. And so with some assistance from Scott Goff, our Fire Defense Board chief, I wrote the white paper that's attached to this. We went to a meeting in Sherman County the end of August after all of the big fires. Judge Schaefer was there, I was there, Chief Hinton was there, Scott Goff was there. So we had a number of people representing our area that were at the meeting. And we met with Senator Hansel, Betsy Johnson. There were a number of legislators there, and I don't know names.
Most all of those are involved around emergency services and getting services to the people.
And it's a bicameral, bi-party support. It isn't limited to one political party or the other, or one branch of our government or other. After the meeting, I wrote the white paper that's attached on the back, and things that we talked about that we needed is when we have these big fires, we need to get a conflagration or a mobilization for this area without us having to be burning structures up in order to get that. We need the people that come in to help with those fires to have the ability, not necessarily their training ability, but the ability through legislation to be able to come in and fight wildland fires. Right now, if you look at the Oregon State Mobilization Plan through the State Fire Marshal's Office, it says that they're an all-hazard team. But when you look at what it says about wildland fires, it says very specifically that they will come in to help with wildland fires, but they do structure protection only. So when the State Fire Marshal's Office came in to our fire in Condon, which is the first time in the time that I've been here, Chris Fitzsimmons says in 25 years it's the first time that she's aware of that they've ever come in that she knew about. They came in and they said, we're here to help you. We are coming in, we are going to provide firefighters so you can take your firefighters off of the line, and we're here to help. And when we signed the delegation of authority for them to come and help us, they said, well, we want you to know we do structure protection only. And I said, so that means that our firefighters that are out fighting the wildland fire, you're not going to relieve them. Because the idea was to get firefighters in so that we could relieve our firefighters that had been out on the line for close to 24 hours with what was going on. And it's like, nope, we do structure protection only. And so some of those firefighters that went to some of the areas literally said, we will go, we will look at your houses, we will tell you how you can protect your houses, or we will do things to help protect your houses, but we are not going to fight this fire. In particular, that was in the Lone Rock area. Lone Rock had a fire that I wasn't even able to send resources to for the first, well, the fire actually kind of started on Friday, and until Monday, we didn't even have resources that we had available to send out there. And so they had firefighters from the state fire marshal's team that were there, and they were appreciative of the fact that they were there and protecting their houses, but they weren't doing anything to actually go out and be on the fire line and put the fire out. So part of what we have said is, we want those firefighters to come in. It was a help that they were there on the structures, because if they hadn't been there on the structures, we would have had to take some of our resources and put them closer to the structures to make sure that they weren't going to burn. But we don't have enough resources to have people fighting fire and have people doing structure protection too. And anyway, some of those firefighters actually, even though they weren't supposed to be fighting wildland fire, were actually fighting the fire. But one of the things that we have asked for in this legislation is, could you please make it so that those firefighters that come in have the ability to go actually be on the fire line and fight wildland fire. That's going to be a big help to us. I spoke last week. I sent the white paper to Senator Hansel's office early in September, and I have spoken with Brandon from Senator Hansel's office several times since then. A month or so ago, when I spoke to him, he told me that they had 6 pieces of legislation that they were writing, that they were trying to get through. They sent me an email last week and said, here's a piece of our legislation. We want you to look at this, tell us if this is what you want, and sign it and send it back by end of business on Friday. And so that legislation covered the ability to have a conflagration called without structures burning, requiring firefighters who respond to the conflagration request to have the ability to engage the wildland fire rather than being structure fire protection only, and letting a designated person other than the fire chief request a conflagration. And the reason that that last piece is in there is because when we requested the conflagration, what you have to do is you have to talk to your fire defense board chief. I was in the office doing a whole bunch of radio and telephone work during that day. Jim Hinton was out on the fire fighting fire. And they said, okay, we've got them on the line, they want a conference so that we can decide if we can call a conflagration, but Jim has to talk to them on the phone. And it's like, okay, I know what's going on, can I not? Nope, the only body that can talk to them is Jim. Can one of our elected board members talk to them? Nope, the only body that can talk to them is the fire chief. So I literally had to get a hold of Jim, pull him off of the fire, get him to an area where he had cell phone service so that he could call in on a conference call to get the conflagration called. And so part of what they're doing now is they're letting, in their legislation, is the piece that says they will let a designated person be able to talk to them to get a conflagration declared. I'm cautiously optimistic that we may see some progress with getting Oregon's conflagration mobilization system changed to better address what happens with large wildfires in rural Oregon. This legislation will be put before the legislature in January, February, if all goes as planned. There are some additional pieces of legislation they are continuing to work on as well. Of particular interest to us is the one that addresses getting air resources and other equipment to assist with fires, and giving the State Fire Marshal's Office the authority to request that equipment with the funding to pay for it. So it isn't just, okay, we're going to be able to request it. We want to set up a fund so that it's paid for. Like all legislation, this is the beginning step. So we don't really know for sure where it's going to go. We're hopeful that maybe some of this will go through. We're hopeful that some of this will, help with a change, so that when we have these large fires in the rural areas of Oregon, we're not so strapped for resources. We are going to be for the first hour, whatever the time frame is. And when we talk about air resources, everybody gets kind of excited about the thought that you may get airplanes and helicopters and people in doing bucket work. That is going to depend on the availability of those resources. Right now, when we had the fire last summer, BLM came on to our fire here on Saturday, which was the second day of the really big fire that was happening, and he requested 3 helicopters. They did not have air resources to send. The other thing is if the smoke is so thick, they won't send resources because they can't do anything anyway. So the air resource part of it is all really dependent on what's available, what the air conditions are like, and all of that. So the very last part of the report that I gave you is, in the event that you haven't heard, I am retiring at the end of June this next year. I notified the Fire Services Board of that at our September meeting, and at this time they're planning on advertising for my position starting in January with the intent of hiring someone approximately the first part of May so that I can spend some time helping that person with anything that they might not be aware of for this job. When I came into the job 12.5 years ago, I came in cold. There was nobody here, and it was, even though I had some experience, it was a pretty huge learning curve. Over the course of time from 2006 through last year, I actually worked 1,275 hours more than full-time. So some years I was working 200 to 300 hours more than what would have been full-time in that year. Part of that was that learning curve. Part of it is just what happens with the job. So.
Cool. Good.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a 2.5-year-old grandson that I'm looking forward to being able to spend more time with.
Who's on the Fire Service, Gilliam County Fire Services Board now?
There's a representative from each city, from each fire district, and from the county court. So Arlington is Bobby Christensen, Condon is Donald Jameson, and then the fire districts are Larry Eubanks and Roger Lida, and the county court representative is Gary Betancourt. And Gary's been the court representative for the whole time that I've been here. Other questions?
No, good job, Shannon.
Okay.
Legislatively, though, we have a big push. You know, right now the governor's budget is actually $2 billion over what they anticipate the revenue to be. I know that there was, I haven't seen it completely because it's fairly large, but my understanding is there are funds for air locations.
They were talking about starting the fund with $5 million was what they had mentioned to me when they talked about it. And $5 million, if you have a lot of stuff, isn't going to go very far when you figure some airdrops are $15,000 a drop, and probably if you're getting the super tanker, it would be even more than that. And so those resources could go pretty quickly. But I'm hoping, kind of part of the conversation that we had with that was, I actually, kind of what got part of this going was I called Washington State and said, I want to talk to your people in the fire marshal's office and verify that what I know is what's happening up there, which is what I did. And I ended up talking with their deputy state fire marshal, and he said, have you talked with the deputy state fire marshal in Oregon? And I said, no, I haven't. And he said, well, I was just in a meeting with Mariana, and you need to call her and talk to her. Well, she called me like the next day, and we had a lengthy conversation about this. And then when we went, and I think really that the substation fire is really pushing a lot of this because of the death of someone who was helping to fight that fire. And so we had a lengthy conversation, and it was kind of like things are maybe going to change a little bit anyway. But I think that legislatively this is maybe a more positive place than where we've been for a while. And I've been pushing, as Steve knows, I've been pushing for a long time because of the situation that we face here. It's like we just don't have the resources to cover the area that we have. And when I first got here, the state fire marshal's office was pushing the fire districts to encompass all of the county with fire protection. They were the ones that were pushing that, without the awareness of what we face in doing that, so.
And I guess, it was the Eagle Creek fire, the substation fire, those two things really have brought forward the conflagration issues. And I think it's, although knocking on doors and carrying this message, it seemed to fall on deaf ears, but now the door is wide open and a whole lot of people are listening. And so
Yeah.
it's a matter of continuing to carry this message. And you've been really kind of the driver of the ship. More power to you. You're retiring at the wrong time, although
Well-
congratulations. I agree with Leslie. It's just.
I'm planning on continuing to volunteer with the fire department,
Right.
and if I can volunteer in some way to continue to get this to move forward, I am excited about that. When I talked to Brandon earlier, I asked if they needed anybody to testify when they did these hearings, and he said yes, that he would let me know, so I'm planning on attending that, because I think that we need to have a voice in this, and we need to have a voice there saying, hey, we can do this better.
Yeah. I talked with Brandon on Mondays, or Brendan, I should say, on Monday, and this was the topic of conversation for how it can be helpful, and specifically our rural areas with such low population.
Yeah.
Volunteer firefighting departments.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Shannon.
You're welcome. Would you like a copy of this?
Oh, Sandy got me.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so, gonna see how quickly we can move here. We have a date set up here. I want to go to the concrete batch plant. We have an approval of a sublease that we've talked about quite frequently. Actually, we're leasing now to Thompson Brothers Construction, who is going to do a sublease with Hood River Sand and Gravel. They are actually up and operating right now. I guess the first order of business, Ruben, do you have anything you want to add? It looks to me, virtually all the things that we've talked about, the concerns are here.
Yes. At the last meeting, they requested that they be allowed to go ahead with the sublease, even though we hadn't formally signed off on it. And this top page is just the consent that we're giving to them doing the sublease. That's about that. Basically, it just says that we allow the sublease to Hood River Sand and Gravel, that the original lessor, though, is still responsible if something should go wrong or rent isn't paid or whatnot. So they're still responsible to keep up the lease and be the enforcer there. We're just allowing them, with this one particular entity, Hood River Sand and Gravel, to operate.
It was pretty confusing to read this.
It was.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
There was particular language in there that I wanted to see in order to approve it. Yeah, this was between them, actually. I was very clear to Thompson Brothers and Hood River Sand and Gravel that although there's language I need to see in there in that sublease, I can't be your attorney. I'm representing the county in this, and I can't be, working through that. So they came up with it on their own.
They did, and I really think it was a staff individual, Thompson Brothers, that really drafted the whole thing, and really, as time went on and plugging in some of the things that Ruben really insisted on seeing in there, kind of created a little bit of confusion with it too. Although I don't know why they wouldn't have considered those things from almost day one. But.
Well, I think that they just didn't know to consider them, but I just wanted to make sure that the insurance would be in place and that the Hood River Sand and Gravel recognized that there was a master lease in place and agreed to honor the master lease, and just basic terms like that I wanted to see in the sublease, asked them to put in, and they put in.
Yeah.
So who makes the payment to us? Thompson Brothers?
Thompson's, yes.
Yeah.
Thompson.
Okay, because that got a little confusing reading this too. It sounded like Hood River was doing the payments. to us.
Well, that's the agreement between Hood River and
Yeah.
Thompson Brothers.
Right.
We are not a party to this sublease. All we're doing is we're saying that this sublease is okay with us if Thompson Brothers wants to enter into it with Hood River Sand and Gravel. We are only still a party to our master lease, the original lease that we put in with Thompson Brothers.
And under that one, which I don't have a copy here,
Thompson Brothers has to pay us.
right, they have to pay us, plus they're responsible
Insurance.
for everything.
Oh, yeah,
If the subleaser doesn't, they're still responsible.
that's correct.
Yeah,
And,
which, like I say,
mhm.
I don't have that copy here to, when I was looking at this,
Mhm.
see, but, and that wasn't very, I guess it wasn't clear when I started reading this, that this is a separate piece in the front page.
Totally separate, yes. Mhm.
So, I mean, basically, it says we're still obligated, is what it says here on the front page. And then I tried to remember, well, what's our obligation, see? Because I didn't have our original lease. And, so anyway, that was part of made it confusing in looking at this.
Totally different agreement.
Yeah. So, but I didn't really have a chance to talk to anybody about it, call you either, due to circumstances, so. Anyway, that's part of what I was trying to get myself clarified on.
So, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Are you okay on that?
Are you?
Aye.
You haven't said anything.
I am.
Yeah. So then I would move we approve the agreement to the consent to sublease the concrete batch plant that Thompson Brothers has leased to the Hood River Sand and Gravel.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Gilliam County consent to sublease that Thompson Brothers has with Hood River Sand and Gravel for the operation of the concrete batch plant. Yeah. I guess this will begin so that it adheres to the lease agreement that we already have with Thompson Brothers. I guess I'm not adding too much to this. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, in regards to the batch plant, yesterday, well, I guess it was yesterday afternoon, late, I received a phone call from Brad Thompson with Thompson Brothers stating that he had had a conversation with Deborah Zorza with Hood River Sand and Gravel in regards to the batch plant computer system and the operation of it that we discussed this last fall. Apparently it's in a failure mode. They have, Dubber called this morning. We had quite a long conversation with him about what he has been having to do to try to keep it up and going while they're operating. Apparently he had to make a trip down to Portland to get a motherboard that would allow for the system to continue operating. Based on this morning, his suggestion was that if we want to continue operating that batch plant, that we do update the hardware and the software up to the new Command Alcon Eagle system that they have. This is different than what he had the discussion with Ruben before. During the conversation, as I listened to what Deborah had to say, I suggested that he actually begin the conversation with others as we move forward with this. We went through, I think Ruben drafted up an RFP that we were going to send out. Deborah's comments were similar to what we kind of, if we're going to be in this business, his suggestion was that we have somebody that actually operates it. His was on the road.
Right, he was suggesting that the county should have
Somebody-
someone who can operate the plant.
Right. It would make it much easier for us to be doing subleasing instead of the entity that's leasing it having to bring personnel in to be able to operate something that they're unfamiliar with, that we would have somebody there the entire time that could do that for them. Again, the conversation come back to, well, what if, it was batching software and computers that were very similar to what everybody else is using, which, as we've said before, about 95% of them in this area is Command Alcon's Eagle system. He said, well, of course, that would make it much easier. Right now, I think his description was that we had a used car that was close to being broke down and or without tires and so on and so forth. Really, the value of it was pretty low at this time. He also said that the front end loader that is down there has a problem with the alternator on it. Apparently, there's a broken bolt. This is the first I heard of it this morning. As I told him, I thought maybe we could get our mechanic to get it picked up and brought up here to get that fixed. Also, the hot water heating system down there, we had talked about this before.
The what?
The hot water heating system.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the boiler has gone out of it. He's did some pricing around on that. It's about $15,000 to go ahead and get it fixed. He said for $18,000, you could buy a brand new one and put in there. It's up to date, that's, got all the, he said this is all low-end portions of this, just enough to be able to operate it on a minimal type basis. The problem, he said, though, is you would end up with, that company that leases it for that period of time, you need to know for sure that they shut everything down correctly, brought it back to the particular point that it should be. And again, he said that, many times those people that do that are thinking more on their own, which is a continually operated facility. Again, I think our concern, and this is what I relayed to him, is putting it up for sale. Our concern has been that if we sell the equipment, how long will it actually stay in Gilliam County? If it, would it be picked up and moved and no longer here? Anyway, I told him that additional people will probably be getting a hold of him to have conversations with him about what he relayed to us. Before, it seemed as if we didn't really know what we wanted to do. I think as we get a new court that comes in, really we don't have time to do it, but I don't think that we should be making a decision as to what is going to happen with the badge plan in the future. I explained that to him. And that, other people would probably be reaching out to him to have the conversation of what the next move should be. Of course, he relayed that he would love nothing more than for us to, move into getting the new batching system there for his convenience during the time that he's working on this. He
Is this the
also-
guy that said he
This is
knew
the-
how to run this thing and everything was great?
This is the exact
This is
opposite
the-
of what he said
Exactly. This
6
is
weeks ago.
What he told Ruben 6 weeks ago. It's the
Oh.
complete opposite.
Oh, okay,
So-
I just,
Yes.
that was
Yeah.
the weak spot
I'm
in
sorry,
my memory.
I probably, Dever Zorza with Hood River Sand and Gravel.
Uh,
So, again, I think that it's up to, Hood River Sand and Gravel did get the bid for the Montague project, so they'll be pouring all the contract for the new wind turbines that are in there. But, as he said, they're going to bring in their own batching plant and put it out on, the laydown area to operate from there. I asked him about the need of a secondary location and whether they would be interested in using ours. He said, well, at this time right now, I have backups that are in the Dallas port and other locations. I'm trying to convince them to accept those secondary locations. And he was straightforward, simply because yours is not really in a position to be able to do what we have to do. He said, this is a project that is happening during the winter, and what components I have brought in there, I'm going to have as backup components for the facility that he is operating. For instance, the hot water system that he has.
Right.
the motherboards, all of these things are gonna be used for backing up his system and not for a backup system.
But he's saying his other backup systems are
A long ways away.
a long ways away.
Yeah.
He's not interested in ours unless it was A1, huh?
Well, I'm not gonna say A1, at least brought up to a level to where it was reliable.
Yeah.
You know, right now, he doesn't feel that it's reliable, so. You know, kind of, in a way, sort of reading between some of the lines, but.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's, again, it's one of those, the new group of people coming in.
Well, I believe we've got money in our industrial park
Yeah.
for
they're-
maintenance and whatnot. That
Yeah.
I think that's,
Yeah.
we certainly have the advantage if we had our equipment up and going, that it would be the backup, and it also gives, you know, makes the service somewhat available to other contractors in the area for smaller jobs too.
Right. You know, the big issue that we have is the RFP process and what it would take
Right.
to end up going through a lot of that.
Actually, that'll be okay.
Yeah.
That'll be okay.
Okay.
Because we're under the threshold, we don't actually have to publish it, we just have to send it out to three different vendors.
Correct.
Yeah.
This could even be considered an emergency, if he needs it right now.
Mhm.
But it shouldn't take very long to at least send it to 3 vendors. Sandy and I have a list of about 5 or 6 or maybe even 8
Correct.
vendors.
Right.
So we're good there.
And I think the big issue, of course, this would be a discussion at the time that if we chose to do that, got those back. Of course, those vendors are all different ones. You know, Command Alcon seems to be the system that everybody wants to use.
We're back to that.
We're back to that, and I think that's where the issue is.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
we discussed the emergency end of things, and if
Right.
you're,
Oh, no,
again, well, I should mention to you, we do need to get the mechanic down there and get the front end loader picked up, and
Oh, yeah.
or, you know, something done with it, so.
Well, they had a hydraulic issue too.
I heard something about that. This one is strictly an alternator with a
Right.
bolt that is
But I
broke
mean,
on
there
it.
was 2 issues to it, so,
Yeah,
yeah, and they immediately brought in their own equipment,
right.
yeah.
And that's the solution that they've come up with at this time, is
Yeah.
bring in their own stuff, or bring in their own equipment, and whatever they can to get it up and going quickly, so. Anyway, again, this hit me yesterday afternoon,
Right. Well,
again this morning, so.
And Dewey's
Gone.
out of the state right now too.
Right, right.
So that made it a little more difficult in terms of directing our mechanic into the work, but.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think I got off the phone with him at, what was it, 9:40 this morning? You know, with Dubber.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really didn't have time to
Oh, no.
even make the first phone call on it.
Yeah.
I just said that, you know, I would give the report this morning, see what direction we wanted to go with. I think the easy part is sending the mechanic down there to take a look at
Oh, yeah.
at that. I think that where it gets a little more difficult is the RFP process, whether we get started on this right away. Right now, I guess, you know, to utilize Dubber's analogy of it, we have a used car with no tires and wheels.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the only one that really had concerns about, or said anything against that Command Alcon, wasn't he? Or was he?
Yeah, he was not big on the Command Alcon system.
Yeah.
And he was saying that it seems to be an okay plant as is,
We were
but
okay.
by my recollection though, he was saying a lot of those things without actually physically running the plant. And so I can understand how after getting in there and physically running the plant, that his opinion could change there. It was, and change it did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think it wasn't so much the Command Alcon system as it was the system that was there was capable of running it. You know.
Yeah.
My conversations with him were more in the line of because they just, the batch plant that they're gonna be moving out just bought a whole new Command Alcon system
Right.
to put
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
it.
they're okay with the
And so,
system,
yeah.
it just wasn't for
Yeah.
the upgrades until he started running it.
Yeah,
He didn't want to upgrade until they were done with it.
Right.
Now he's using it and wants to upgrade it.
yeah. So, yeah, and that's where it's, I guess, kind of run into where we were at. We were looking at an old system that you can't call Command Alcon and have any work done on it. Their solution is to upgrade the whole thing. And he said that was, some of the issues that everybody had run into. It wasn't so much that Command Alcon was not the system we wanted to use. It was that, and I don't remember, there was a French company, there was.
Yeah, I mean, there
was,
Canadian, there's several
yeah.
companies, but they're all much smaller than Command Alcon. Command Alcon's 90% of the market.
So what's the wishes, at this time, as I told Deborah that, I would introduce it today, we could maybe gather some information, so, with Ruben here, whether we can give him direction on whether we want to go with the RFP process, which I think is fairly simple, it's all together, we can send it out, get the information back, maybe make a decision at the next court meeting, or we can, table the whole thing and leave it for the new court.
To me, I think we need to keep moving forward on it.
Okay,
And,
all right.
I mean, yeah, what we turned over to them was just some junk. Some parts,
exactly,
they can sell it.
Right,
They
right.
can sell pieces of it.
Right.
And we can put out the RFP and not do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get that going and in place, and then after the first year, if the new court doesn't want to do it, they don't have to, but we'll have the information ready.
Right.
Did
So-
we have a ballpark amount on what these upgrades
$30,000 to
cost?
$35,000.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Now, that didn't include the boiler.
Right.
The
Right.
boiler's another 18, so we're looking at roughly, probably around 55 to 60 grand by the time you purchase the boiler, get everything installed, get all the stuff that goes on with it.
But they're separate.
Dubber, yeah, they're separate. Dubber, said that really what Command Alcon is gonna wanna do is they're gonna wanna sell a lot of service update agreements, service level agreements, all of these things that, there's a consistent yearly fee in keeping those things up. Now, based on my experience with Frontier Telnet and the Motorola system, the digital switch, that can be pretty cumbersome to any operation. And
Dollar-wise.
Dollar-wise.
But it's pretty essential with the type of operation we
You gotta.
are, that we need that.
Yeah, unless.
We need that ongoing
Right.
maintenance agreements to,
But that's where Dubber said that it might be helpful for you guys to have somebody who operates it regularly, and that person would know all about it.
And we're not doing that.
That's exactly what I said. So I said, that's something that I'm not in favor of. But
It
then,
would be nice to have somebody who knew how to run it, whether we were going to run it or not. If we had somebody in the county that knew how to run it,
okay.
that would be a real.
Now, that I think real possible with the road department.
Right.
Yeah.
what time did we have to end now?
Now.
Well, the party starts at 1.
Yeah, okay, so let's go
Okay.
quickly over a couple of things if we possibly can.
So, excuse me, do you want me to send out the quotes and send out the request?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, we have November claims pending review.
I move we approve the November claims pending review.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the claims, November claims pending review. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we've got the minutes.
I just saw two things, two easy things.
Yeah.
One was just a typo back on page, and I think this was the one. I knew that, well, see, I read them along the electronic version, and then I couldn't remember where one of the typos were.
Yeah,
But I think on the last page, where it says Les Ruart suggested is the court, I think we just dropped that is.
Yeah, that was one I had highlighted.
And
That was
then the only other thing I saw was on page 5, when we were discussing the rights of way application. Mike had a bunch of questions about the application and how it was completed, and then I asked if the planning director had approved it. So that was just something that, it got kind of tied in with Mike, and it was me.
That must be a typo.
Yeah, it must be. And that was all I saw.
All right,
But-
I'm good with both of those.
But on that last page also, on that motion,
Is that what the is was?
the motion by Weatherall
Me?
and seconded by Weatherall.
I was busy.
Oops.
I didn't see that. Good catch.
Okay. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I
just
see
got
that
tired.
now.
I got
didn't-
tired of it.
yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Get
so
down to the
who made the motion?
Oh,
On that particular one, I think
I'll
Mr.
remember.
Weimer made the motion on that, wasn't it?
You have to go
Yeah.
back to the
yes, I don't remember.
tape and listen,
All right.
because I can't.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to check that, but I did see it,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll catch it.
That I didn't pick
Good
up.
catch.
Yeah, the is, dropping the is the only thing that I caught. Good work. Okay.
Because you both have last names that start with W.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
But I would move we approve the November 7th regular meeting minutes as corrected.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the regular meeting minutes from November 7th as corrected. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, good. Okay, we also have correspondence from the sheriff. It's basically stating that they're appointing a keeper of the local correctional facilities. It says that he hereby appoints Dan Lindhorst to be the jailer for the North Oregon Regional Corrections Facility. This jailer has full authority to carry out all acts necessary to operate the jail. This is something that initially he thought had to come in front of the county court for us to approve it. He has found out that no, that's not the case. He just needs to let us know that that is happening.
Yeah.
Okay, very simple with that. Okay, I did take care of the batch plan. That was actually between 3.22. I wasn't sure whether you were here or not, Commissioner Wong. Court member reports. Summit Springs Village is in the process of really getting some of their things pretty well cleared up. There was some difficult news. Apparently, they have let the director, Cindy Hess, has taken her to retirement. And so right now, they have an interim director in there to operate the facility. Again, the goal is to really get some of the issues cleaned up that they have going on there. And DHS is working with them pretty extensively and trying to get that accomplished. That is aging and people with disabilities wing of DHS. Also, Frontier Telnet is running into some real financial difficulties at this time. I'm hoping to have a report will be to the county court at our next county court meeting that will
I was hoping we-
suggestions and goals on, what maybe the next movements that we're going to have to make are going to be. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, yeah, not really sure how Frontier Telnet's going to be able to pay their bills in January, but working on getting some of that accomplished. All right, that being said, I think I pretty well covered. How about you guys on court member reports? I know we had
Yes, I can be quick. I'm going to the Columbia Ridge Landfill CAC meeting tonight. I was able to attend the Montag construction kickoff meeting. And Judge Schaefer was there too. On November 28th, they met with the landowners and talked about the schedule and the impacts. I also attended the AOC conference again this year. It was very good. They had a lot of just really interesting, and I won't listen because we don't have time, but one of the things that they added on a session about wildfires, and they had this room selected upstairs for it, and it was not big enough. Because it was, it
That's
was
because you guys all
jammed.
infiltrated our meeting.
Yeah.
Ah,
Anyway, that was really good. They brought up a lot of things that Shannon was also discussing. And while at the AOC meeting, we got a gold safety award for Gilliam County for
no
our.
accidents for a full year.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
One of only 3 counties in the state.
I know. So, and that's all I have.
okay,
Actually,
good.
We were the only small.
The only small county.
Yeah,
That's
yes. Won the award.
That was
Okay.
concise.
Okay.
The reason I tried to get Sherry back in the room here was the CAPCO meeting I went to there. My position on the board is really represents Wheeler and Gilliam counties of the county government position. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a county court member. And in the past, it was our community development person. It wouldn't necessarily have to be a person in the county government. And they're recommending, they're trying to recommend that I stay on the board. And so anyway, I thought this court still needs to have the new court needs to make, be in on this, but it's really the capital board that makes the decision as to who sits on the board.
Right. They accept the recommendation
Right.
from the counties.
Yeah. And Sharon Asher right now is supposedly a representative from Wheeler County, well, not of Wheeler County, that's a low-income person, but she is from Wheeler County.
Right.
So anyway, there's certain, the bylaws, and I thought eventually I'll try to get that information to the new court. And I didn't attend that meeting, that was Monday, but I did attend the Wildland Fire meeting here that was at the fairgrounds, and it was well attended.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't able to make it, but
Yeah. So anyway, that's all that's happened but the capitals, the main one.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, anything else? Gosh, if we have nothing else, we shall adjourn until December 19th.
Okay.
Okay.